Hi, Carol. How are you? Hi.
Please be upstanding for His Worship, the Mayor of the London Borough of Hounslow, accompanied by the Deputy Mayor and the Chief Executive.
I would like to welcome members of the House, officers, public, and those watching at home. May I ask that telephone to be put on silent mode? May I remind members that they cannot tweet, but the public can. Can I check that all members have the following agenda documents: the main agenda and the supplementary agenda? Everyone has got it? Thank you. May I remind all members that all debates should be done through the mayor and without interruptions, and of course, respectfully. And may I also remind you that points of order can only be about breaches of the Constitution or law. Finally, please do not turn on your microphones until I have asked you to speak, to avoid this moving the webcasting cameras too soon. Thank you. We will now move on to the first item of the agenda. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence and declaration of interest from members. I've got apologies from Joanna Bidoff, Councillor Catherine Dunn, Councillor Ranjit Gill, Councillor Sue Sampson, Councillor Salman Shaheen. Is there an other apology? Yes.
Apologies for lateness from Councillor Vikram Garawal.
Vikram Grewal for lateness. Noted. Thank you. May I draw members' attention to the documents on declaring interests? Is there any? None. Okay. We Now come to announcement, agenda item 2, announcements. I would like to start for myself. I would like to start today by informing members of my recent visit to Pakistan, which was response to a request from the authority in Lahore, one of our twin towns, to pay a visit there in my role as mayor. I'm sure members will be pleased to learn of the success of the visit and how I was also invited to meet other dignitaries, including the Governor of Punjab, the Speaker of National Assembly, and the Director of Archaeology at the historic Fort of Pulwari. Some of these meetings were also in the company of Councillor Chaudhry and Councillor Gul, who were also visiting Pakistan at that time. Any other announcements? Yes, Councillor Rajawat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With your permission, I've got several announcements, so I'll try and keep them as brief as possible. The first announcement is on behalf of Councillor Dunn, who can't be with us this evening. It's a really great story that some of our schools are now completely off-grid in the borough. So members will be aware that the council declared a climate emergency in 2019 and adopted a plan of action in 2020 to be net zero by 2030. As part of our ambition to be net zero, we managed to secure £11.2 million of funding from the government's public sector decarbonisation fund to retrofit 30 schools in Hounslow with low carbon technology, and that includes solar PV, LED and ASHP. Alongside the investment the council has made in improving schools, the council has reduced its carbon footprint by 10% in 22-23, and that went to Cabinet earlier this month. I'm pleased to report to council we now have a number of schools in Hounslow that are completely off the grid. For example, in November, the Heathon School came off grid completely. Their total power requirement came from their solar PV and battery only. The heating supply for the school was being provided from air source heat pump and no gas boiler was required. And I'm pleased to report the battery was fully charged and exporting back to the grid, so giving back to the grid as well. And that's the same situation in the Hogarth School as well. Members will be aware, Mr. Mayor, that the council committed to retrofitting the remaining schools across the borough. However, the government department in charge of this has changed the eligibility criteria to apply for the funds. So only buildings with end-of-life boilers are eligible, ruling out many of the council's assets. Furthermore, if schools were to access the grant, they'd have to contribute match funding, which is incredibly difficult when their budgets are constrained. This has made it increasingly difficult to access the funds and achieve the targets. However, I can report to council that we absolutely remain committed. We are looking at other ways of supporting this ambition as well. My second announcement is in relation to some recent awards and accolades. We must congratulate our teams across the council. We are an award-winning council, as members will be aware, but we continue to win awards. So in the last few weeks, I've been delighted to see the council see well-deserved awards and accolades for Hounslow and partnership teams, and some highlights for you. Hounslow's Addiction Recovery Community Team was named Team of the Year at the Royal College of Nursing Awards. The service helps people to break a cycle of addiction to drugs and alcohol and is part of the Central and North West London NHS Foundation Trust. The council-funded service are fantastic partners who are dedicated to improving health and life outcomes for Hounslow residents. So very well done to that team. Further, the team behind the Duke's Meadow footbridge in Chiswick were victorious in the Transport and Infrastructure category at the New London Architecture New London Awards 2023. The footbridge, which continues the Thames footpath underneath the Barnes Railway Bridge, won the prestigious architectural prize, beating some major competition. The bridge is one of the lowest carbon and most environmentally conscious bridges in the UK. And in awarding the team, the judges summed it up perfectly in saying, like all properly considered civic infrastructure, its impact and value far surpasses its physical boundary and construction cost. With climate resilience and lifetime maintenance at the centre of design, the community will continue to benefit from the project for the next 120 years. So again, congratulations to all of those. And I do acknowledge Councillor Todd was involved in that project as well. The final award I'd like to recognise is the Council's Animal Welfare Team, which was awarded gold in 2 categories in the recent RSPCA Paw Print Awards. The RSPCA Paw Print Awards recognises and celebrates local authorities, housing providers and police officers who have gone above and beyond for animals and their communities. This is the second year the team have been successful at these important awards. So congratulations to that team, small but absolutely mighty. And I promise you my final announcement this evening, back by popular demand, Cabinet Question Time is returning to the Borough. We're delighted to be bringing it back. Absolutely. On the 6th of December, we will be at Feltham Assembly Hall answering questions from the public, and I would encourage members of the public to submit questions either online or via email if they don't have online access. We will try and get through as many questions as we possibly can. I know it will be a full packed evening. All of those asking questions will be invited to attend to ask their question in public. And I'm delighted that Sally Smith of the West London Chamber of Commerce will be our able chair that evening. So I would encourage all members of the public watching to think of a question and submit it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. Yeah. Councillor Chaudhry. Councillor Samia Chaudhry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councillor Rajwant has mentioned about the Art Council, our community drugs and alcohol treatment service wins the prestigious RCN Team of the Year award. I'm just going to explain a little more. At the Royal College of Nursing annual award ceremony on Friday, 10th of November, Art Hounslow, the Borough's Drugs and Alcohol Treatment Service run by CNWL, was awarded the National Team of the Year award. This national award is highly competitive and only awarded to outstanding teams. The Art Hounslow team, led by Sector Manager Taruna Ramprasad, have achieved a significant contribution to the lives of residents in Borough, reducing health inequalities and stigma amongst an often marginalized and vulnerable population. Art was one of the first drug and alcohol service to achieve hepatitis C micro-elimination 2 years ahead of NHS England's 2025 target, which continues to be sustained even 7 months on. The innovation joint working was carried out through a collaboration with West Middlesex Hospital and the charity Hips See You Later. Additionally, the alcohol care team has also received acclaim, having increased the number of adults in treatment by around 100 in its first operational year and reducing alcohol-related hospital admissions through an innovation approach, including both in hospital treatment as well as assertive follow-up in the community. Another highlight has been the introduction of the Hounslow Recovery Day program, a college-informed 5 days a week, 12 weeks program that has offered an alternative to residential rehabilitation for 56 Hounslow residents since its launch 2 years ago, with an 87% successful completion rate. The joint working and the communication between all elements of the service has contributed towards successful outcome for service users, and within the number of people in treatment increasing and achieving improved treatment performance measures. Overall, Arch has continued to be an all-round high-performing service, with Hounslow featuring in top 3 boroughs in London. In relation to increasing the number of adults accessing community treatment and so the set national target, I would like to thank all the team and congratulate them on their achievements. Thank you. And the second announcement I have, that's about the Hounslow Council acclaimed video about the impact of dementia on family life. Glimpse was nominated for a second major film award. The 4.5-minute long film was shortlisted for the Europe and the Middle East and Africa Shorts Awards. While it didn't win overall, We were so proud it got the recognition it did, competing with the like of World Wildlife Fund, Age UK, Women's Aid, and the Child Poverty Action Group. Glimpse follow the lives of a family in Hounslow as they come to terms with the mum's diagnosis of dementia. It leaves the viewers with the uplifting message that in Hounslow you're never alone. Glimpse has already been chosen to be showcased as a part of the International Film Festival and qualifying event for the British Academy of Film and Television Award, which is also running this month. On this note, I would like to say thank you very much to all my team involved in this project. And I would like to request Gary if he can play a short clip from the film, and the full video is on the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chaudhary.
Noticed anything different about you, Mum?
20%.
Thanks, Mum.
CT scan, and would they be able to decide where to go from there?
No, Mama, she's just a friend.
अगर आप शादी कर लो तो अच्छा होगा बेटा.
Thanks for the lift, Mum. Oh, Adam, she seems terribly confused about Mum, it's okay.
There's no cure with dementia, but there's so much help available.
You didn't say you were selling it.
I did, Mama. Just don't remember. It is beautiful out there.
That's it. What I know now is the most I will ever know. We are here for you.
Is there any other announcement? Is there any other announcements? No? Okay. We conclude the announcement this evening with the sad news of the death of two councillors connected in different ways to Hounslow. The first of these is the late councillor Geoffrey Samuel, who, whilst not a councillor in Hounslow, was until his death at 92 years of age a councillor in Richmond, and may be better known to members here as a former head teacher of Heathland School. I have been asked to allow two members tonight to pay a short tribute to him, and I'm happy to do so. So may I first invite Councillor Ron Mashisho to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Samuel would like me to stand when speaking in a group like this. Thank you so much. It's rather unprecedented, and I thank you for allowing us the space to pay tribute to Councillor Geoffrey Samuel, a councillor that did not serve, as you said, in our borough, but instead was a servant in our neighbouring Richmond borough, Richmond upon Thames borough, where he served continuously from 1957 to 1978 as a Labour councillor, but then returning as a Conservative councillor in 1997, perhaps after reflecting on the mistakes of his previous 21 years. And in 1997, he was re-elected in his home ward of Hampton North, where he continued to serve right up until his death on Friday, 10th of November, aged 92. And speaking to colleagues who know him or knew him better than I did, they told me that he was still at his desk, working and planning meetings the night before he died. A truly remarkable man. And what's more remarkable is the many lives that he has touched in the community, and for the far-reaching influence that he has had on his chosen profession as an educator. Mr. Mayor, education was his passion. He had a commitment to excellence, a motto that is still holds strong amongst pupils and former pupils of Heathland School. Geoffrey Samuels, for 23 years, its headmaster. Many people watching this tonight, and some in this room, will be either pupils, parents, or some form of influence or influenced by the Heathland School. Others will have connection to the school in many other ways. The school where Councillor Guruwal and I attended, the school adjacent to the now very famous Jamia Masjid Mosque, the school that turned its famous Redgra playing pitch into a multi-purpose facility where thousands of people can now enjoy five-a-side football on any given weeknight. And under that same premise, under that school building, bears the name of Mr. Jeffrey Samuel. His legacy will live on. Our headmaster, our teacher, and our hero. Mr. Mayor, our thoughts are with Lorna, his wife, his friends, and the rest of his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mashisho. May I now invite Councillor Vikram Grewal also to say a few words about the late Councillor Samuel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess firstly, thank you to you, Mr. Mayor, for giving us this slot to honour a truly unique and fantastic individual. Not often do you see both major political parties come together to honour an individual in this borough. But Mr. Jeffrey Samuels was one of those individuals that touched everyone's hearts and had such a profound impact on thousands upon thousands of lives in this borough. His time during being headmaster in the Heathland School was so profound that, as Councillor Mashisho said, there's actually a building named after him. I have the pleasure of going back to the Heathland School every year to give a career talk to a lot of students that I mentor there and telling them about a day in my life in the council and outside the council. And it's only fitting that my last one last year was in the Jeffrey Samuel building. He had a lasting impact, as I said, in the London Borough of Hounslow as headmaster of Heathland School, but also in the London Borough of Richmond, where obviously he was a councillor for 40 years. And it's only fitting that such a special individual dedicated half of his political life to one major political party and half to the other. So we equally shared his greatness. And as Councillor Mashisho said, he was at a planning committee a few days before his passing, as sharp as ever. I think Councillor Mashisho met him on his campaign trail more recently, and I know how proud he was of Councillor Mashisho, but also of all of us former Heathland School pupils that have actually followed into his footsteps, into public service and trying to make the world a better place for the short time that we're on it. And he actually drilled and instilled that in us in school, and his successors, whether that's Mr. Patar or someone that we met recently, the new headmaster, Mr. Rose, are still doing today in assemblies day in, day out in the school, so affecting a lot of children across the borough. His lasting legacy legacy in the Heathland School will be the culture and drive to, and the motto of our school is committed to excellence. We saw that every day from his leadership all the way down to all of his staff, and after he left, the high benchmark that he left for his successor to move on. And that's why there is no surprise that the Heathland School is one of the shining lights of this borough in terms of schools today, and has been for a very long time. And let's not skirt around it. A lot of that is because of Jeffrey Samuel and what he did in that school at his time there. So a huge thank you to him, not just on behalf of all of us in this room today, as a shining light of someone giving public service and being a councillor for 40 years. I think we have Councillor Jagdish Sharma, who's been serving the community as long or longer, but these are very much black swan events, we say in finance, but very unique situations that we see someone dedicate most of their life, not just adult life, most of their life to public service. And also, I would just say finally that my thoughts and prayers are with his family. I know the school's grieving because Councillor Mashisho and I went there last week and very fittingly took a card on behalf of everybody from the council. and also some flowers for his family and for the school to pay our respects, but also his wife Lorna, who, as Councillor Mashisha will know, was a former teacher as well, in this time that she's grieving. The London Borough of Richmond are grieving, Dowser family and the London Borough of Hounslow are grieving, and thank you again, Mr. Mayor, for letting us honour such a great man tonight. So thank you, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you, Councillor Grewal. I know that members will want me to send our thoughts and sympathies to Councillor Samuel's family and friends, and to all who knew him in Richmond and Hounslow and elsewhere. Our second sad announcement tonight relates to the death of a former Hounslow councillor, Cecil Pocock, officially known as Alderman and then Councillor C.A. Pocock. Cecil Pocock was born in 1928 and was an alderman with the Brentford and Chiswick Council in 1960s, which was one of the predecessor bodies of the London Borough of Hounslow before 1965. He was the penultimate and youngest ever mayor of Brentford and Chiswick Council in 1963 to 64, in which capacity he met the then Queen, mother of on formal visit. He was then elected to the London Borough of Hounslow in 1968 in the Chiswick Homefield and ward as a Conservative councillor, serving one term until 1971. Outside of his known interest in Chiswick local politics, Mr. Pocock was also a history teacher at Clapham College and was remembered by pupils there as being the proud owner of a blue Ford Prefect in the 1950s, as well as later becoming headmaster at Emmanuel School in southwest London. In addition, he served as a magistrate at Feltham Magistrate Court. I know that Councillor Peter Thompson would like to say a few words about former Councillor Pocock, so I now invite him to speak. Councillor Peter Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When someone whose time of service on this council was over 50 years ago, it's surprisingly not very easy to find many people who can remember him and what he did. A few people I've spoken to do remember him, and it does seem that his involvement in local politics finished after that first term on what was then new Hounslow Council. Perhaps that was enough for him. But Cecil Pocock, who passed away in September, aged 95, certainly deserves to be remembered tonight. As the Mayor said, he was born in Chiswick and was in fact a pupil at Chiswick Grammar School, as it was for boys, now Chiswick School, during the time of the war, when also sometimes he was evacuated out of London. At a quite young age of 23, in 1950, he was elected to the then Brentford and Chiswick Council. And as the Mayor said, he served as Mayor, but also he was chairman of the council, as they called them in those days, and chairman of the Education Committee and many other committees, and a governor on primary schools and secondary moderns and grammar schools, and a few colleges of FE, again showing that commitment to education. Again, he was an active member of the Conservative Party. He founded the Young Conservatives in Chiswick and Brentford. That was back in 1945 when we used to have Young Conservatives, and was for a while the chairman of the local association. And he was indeed, as our Mayor said, the head teacher at Clapham College Grammar School from 1970 until 75, when it merged with another school and became a comprehensive. And then he became deputy head, but in fact, by all accounts, was still pretty much running the place. I think his influence as a teacher was evident to those, myself and former Councillor Lynch, who were able to go to his funeral during half term, when over 70, if not 100, former pupils from his school turned up to celebrate and give thanks for his life. And that's no mean achievement, given the school that he was headmaster of closed around about 50 years ago. He must have made a difference. Sir Michael Wilshaw, who was the former Chief Inspector of Ofsted, a somewhat controversial figure in the world of education, although to be fair, he did give me my first job, so he's not all bad. But Michael Wilshaw described Cecil Pocock as his best teacher. He said Mr. Pocock brought history to life. All of us in his class, even my friends who didn't particularly like history, loved his lessons because he was a magnetic and engaging character. And again, talking to some former pupils at his funeral, it was clear to me he was not just a good history teacher and head teacher, but also he's incredibly committed. He would every day travel from Chiswick to Clapham in that blue 1956 Ford that you mentioned, and he would be there before school started, in the playground, marking his books and keeping an eye on the students. He led trips, he umpired cricket matches, apparently in his suit. He played the piano for school services, and in history, he would always remind his students of the fundamental, what we now would call British values that are worth defending, of democracy, freedom, and tolerance. And as you said, he was a local magistrate from 1962 to 1998, ending up as chair of the local bench. He would often do his magistrate role in the mornings, travel back to school and tell the boys in that grammar school what had been going on in the court that day. As I said, Cecil Pocock served this council a long time ago, when I was just perhaps starting primary school and a baby. But unbeknown to me, and sadly unbeknown to me until after his death, I actually did know Cecil Pocock, because after all that service to school and council, his life continued a life of service, as he served in many ways Our Lady of Grace in St Edward's Parish Church in Chiswick, where he regularly read. He was one of the administrators, and he helped in so many ways behind the scenes. So I knew that man almost weekly on the altar, reading and doing all sorts of things, but never put a name to the face, never knew what his former life was. He attended mass in that church every day, and then after a coffee every day would walk down to Kew Gardens. Sadly, at the end of his life, he suffered that incredibly cruel disease, and we saw the video earlier, of Alzheimer's and dementia. And fittingly, I think, he ended the last years of his life in our excellent care home in our borough, in Chiswick, in Clifton Gardens. Cecil Pocock's life was one of putting other people's needs before his own and making a real difference as a mayor, as a councillor, as a magistrate, and as a teacher, and as an active member of his faith community. And I think it's good and appropriate, after that 95 years of service, that we give thanks for his life and all the good that he did. And may he rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. On behalf of all members, I would like to extend our thoughts and condolences to the late Cecil Pocock's family and friends, and all who knew him. We will now stand for 1 minute silence, please. Seated. Agenda item 3. We now come to the minutes of the meeting of the council held on 19 September 2023. May I ask members if they have any corrections that they wish to propose? Yes, Councillor Rajwat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on page 20, the final bullet point, small typo, it's JC Deco is just spelled incorrectly. It's spelled D-E-C-O. It should be D-E-C-A-U-X. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Noted. Any more? No? Okay. I'm going to that in a minute. Okay. And now, are there any matter arising from the minutes? May I remind you to that this is just for clarification, not to reopen any debate. Yes, Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 19, we have in the third paragraph down the fact that Councillor Dunn said she was happy to look into whether this could be speeded up. We've had a report this evening about the consequence of heat pumps and so forth. Did Councillor Dunn actually look into what she said she was going to look into?
Councillor Dunn is not here, so can we ask by email?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, on page 21, I would like to find out whether Councillor Wajawat would care to withdraw the remarks that he made about the Prime Minister letting people die. And that's on the second paragraph. Now, that's an offensive and insulting remark to have in the minutes and shouldn't be there.
Councillor Rajwatu.
Mr. Mayor, for clarity, I stand by my comments.
So it's... Mr. Mayor, I shall then make a reference under the Nolan principles on this matter. I think it's disgraceful.
Yeah. Sorry. Agenda item 4, petitions. May I ask members if they have any new petitions to present? Councillor Lal.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to submit a petition on behalf of the residents of Hadley Gardens in Norwood Green. To summarize briefly, they have a concern regarding speeding traffic, especially since there are 2 schools nearby, and during school drop-off and pick-up time, the road is used as a rat run. So they're requesting the council to investigate and put forward traffic calming measures.
Is there any other petition? Yes, Councillor Farmahan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have petitioned to present on behalf of Myrtle Avenue residents, signed by 37 residents. This petition is about road refreshing and parking issues residents are facing day in and out. They will appreciate if this can be looked at as a matter of urgency. Thank you very much.
And the petition. We now move to the second part of the process. We have no petitions for consideration at the council meeting itself this evening. So may I ask members to note the petitions listed in the report. Thank you. Agenda item 5. Annual Public Health Report 2023. The experiences of asylum seekers living in hotel accommodation. Members can find this item at page 34 to 101 of their agenda. May I invite Councillor Tom Bruce to propose the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Members, I'm sure, have seen that they can also find the report outside in this lovely booklet form, much more attractive than in our council agendas. but the detail is exactly the same. Colleagues, tonight, slightly conflicted about presenting this report. On the one hand, it's a groundbreaking report into the lives of asylum seekers in our borough and the issues that they face. But on the other hand, I think those details that I'll go into in a moment shame us as a nation. I think it is shaming for us all, not unique to Hounslow, but us all, that these are the lives of people we are welcoming into our country and expect to live alongside us as British citizens one day. Some of you may be wondering, why am I presenting this report? Well, a few months ago, the leader asked me to take on this bit within my portfolio, migration and asylum within contingency hotels in Hounslow. And I was pleased to do so and excited by the prospect of tackling such an important issue. It is timely because of this report this evening that I'm able to present in front of you on behalf of the public health team. I'm grateful, of course, for support, assuming she continues to agree to second the report tonight, Councillor Chowdhury, and I know will say a few words on this very, very important issue. The Director of Public Health has a duty to publish an annual report into the borough's health, and it's up to her, in this case, and the team to decide what that focus is to be on. It's an unbiased analysis, in this case, of the national and local situation with asylum seekers. The report is absolutely essential read. Those of you who haven't picked one up so far, or those of you online, listening online who haven't been able to read it so far, I would highly encourage you to look at least the executive summary, if not the full report itself. It is clear and concise, yet holds all the detail that we need to understand the situation in our borough today. It gives the reader no doubt as to the national and local picture. It uses national and local data and stats. It holds conversations with healthcare professionals, social workers, and voluntary sector partners. And of course, it converses with asylum seekers themselves to find out exactly what their experience is living in contingency hotels in our borough. It tells us that the numbers nationally and locally have risen enormously in the last 2 years. The majority of those are living in so-called contingency hotels. Hounslow's impact is significant, and for many in hotels, they're living there for prolonged periods of time. As a result, their health is suffering. The report outlines the concerns that the health professionals have around asylum seekers living in our contingency hotels. Mental health provision, the access to appropriate care, poor food in many cases, hygiene and cleanliness, space and play opportunities for young people, and above all, safeguarding the safety of people living in this borough. It highlights an example, another example, of a broken and wasteful immigration system from a broken and wasteful government. It enables misery and missed opportunity. What now? Fortunately, this report isn't fatalistic. The power of this report lies in its recommendations. It is hopeful and it offers solutions. The recommendations ask the government, the Home Office, and ourselves all to look deeply, listen carefully, and act accordingly in order to better asylum seekers' lives in our borough. It asks the government to direct the Home Office to work better with local authorities, to ensure government departments work collaboratively, to direct appropriate funding to local areas, and hold those who have contracts to account. It asks the Home Office to work better with local authorities, to hold providers to account, to improve healthcare, and to improve the communication to and with asylum seekers. And given adequate funding, local authorities and partners will be able to improve that partnership working with asylum seekers. We'll be able to address underlying health needs, to provide trauma training to those who are working with asylum seekers, and expand the voluntary sector use. We call on the government to step up, to listen and to act. Hounslow is a place that welcomes asylum seekers. It looks after its most vulnerable. It is a place of safety. I'd read a section from the report in the back.
Councillor
the
Bruce, can I
conclusion.
ask you to be concise?
Whilst experiences vary, interviews with asylum seekers and stakeholders in Hounslow have consistently recognised that asylum seekers' physical, psychological, safety and wider needs are not being met, and this impacts their physical and mental health. Councillors, this is our chance, that we don't accept the status quo any longer. The solutions are in the report, and that we urge action. I move the report.
May I now ask Councillor Samia Chaudhary to second the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bruce. I think this is extremely, extremely important. Talking from health point of view, I think when we look at the asylum seekers who are in the hotels, honestly speaking, if I carry on speaking on this, I can just, it will be non-stop. But looking at the recommendation, all 15 of them, I think they're extremely important ones. This is one of the excellent report. The recommendations are very, very clear, and the additional funding from central government, especially with the higher asylum seeker numbers, is extremely essential. Councillor Bruce have said a lot. This is one of the excellent report, but I would like to second the report. But on this note, I would say thank you very much to our Director of Public Health for highlighting such an important issue and working on this. This is extremely important document. I will encourage all of our councillors and public to go through it and read it. And thank you to Kelly and Sterling for the great work you guys have done on this. Thank you, and I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Chaudhary. May I now invite members to comment, discuss, and debate the report? Oh, I haven't seen you. Sorry. Councillor Thompson. Sorry.
Just very briefly, it is, as you say, Councillor Bruce, a very powerful document, and for reasons we could perhaps discuss some other time, we do seem to be particularly impacted by this issue, and I think all of us in this chamber would recognise that perhaps it's often been thus that because of Hounslow and its geography and location, has large numbers of folks trying to come and live here, and why wouldn't they? We're a wonderful part of the world, but that puts, as you know, massive pressures on all aspects of the authority and the wider community. If I was writing this, I might sort of slightly quibble with some of the language of the recommendations in terms of directing and tackling this bad, silo working, but actually I think we recognise that perhaps this is an area where civil servants need to work a bit better. And there has to be more thought and joined up thinking, as we used to say. So we're happy to note the recommendations, and we hope government does what it can in terms of the recommendations. And obviously we as councillors were particularly keen that we and our local health service and our voluntary sector tackle what we can in terms of recommendations 1 to 10 to 5. It'd be nice if in the next iteration of this, we don't just move on to another burning issue in the world of public health, but we actually reflect and give evidence and show what we actually have done with our limited funds and capacity sometimes to, as you say, make a real difference to people who want to come here and make a better life for themselves. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Parisotto, please.
Thank you so much, Councillor Bruce, for bringing this report, and thank you to all of the members of the team that have worked on it. Many of you know that this is something that I am really, really passionate about, and have been hearing directly from asylum seekers in the hotels in Hounslow, have been hearing directly from the charities that have been supporting the asylum seekers in the hotel. And unfortunately for many of them, the struggles don't end when they receive that refugee status. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was supporting an asylum seeker who got that refugee status. And it's meant to be the happiest day of their lives. And in fact, it becomes another point of destitution from them because of the Home Office, because of the government's policies on asylum seekers, because of the hostile environment. And it's so beautiful to see our officers trying to do what they can to support it, if it's through the planning, if it's through enforcement. However, their hands are often tied, and we desperately need that government support and to open their eyes to what local authorities are saying, that these are the people that live, that are our residents, we're representing them, but we lack the ability, the power, the finances to actually support them as they should. So I support and endorse the recommendations made by the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perisotto. Councillor Rajawat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bruce and actually Councillor Perisotto have said a lot of what I wanted to say, but it is important to reflect. And I appreciate, Councillor Thompson, your words just now. Unfortunately, with the greatest respect, I do take issue with some of what you said, because actually we have been reflecting this and reflecting on this. And this report hasn't just come about suddenly. This is our experience of what is going on in Hounslow. And we're incredibly proud. Though the asylum seekers, we were at the staff conference last week, and we had a discussion around our asylum seeking population. And it wasn't that they are some aliens living in a hotel. They are our residents. They are our responsibility. They are us, and we are them. And we must keep that in mind. And the moment to act is now. So the report talks about the situation within contingency hotels. We are carrying that burden, and we're happy to carry that burden, but we are getting very little support from government. And we have to acknowledge that, because that is important. £6.5 million is what it's costing us, and that's unfunded. I've sat down in front of the immigration minister twice. I've had lovely warm words. We will look at it. We will come back and think about it. We get no response. And that's not just us in Hounslow. That's our friends in Hillingdon as well. Cross-party, 2 different coloured boroughs. We write to the immigration minister now. We don't even have the courtesy of a reply. And Councillor Perisotto is absolutely right. Those people, once they are turfed out of those hotels, and sometimes they are turfed out with very little notice, end up on our doorsteps. And we will always do the right thing, because it is the right thing to do. They are our residents. We must remember that. But whilst there will absolutely be time to reflect, the time for action is now, and we cannot forget that. And that is the burning issue, and we have to act. We have to act on this report, but we have to act on the reality of the situation. We cannot use warm words anymore. It is just not enough for those people. They are our residents, our people. And when our people are in trouble and in crisis, we have to act. And that is the reality of the situation.
Thank you, Councillor Rajawat.
Yes, I'd very much like to. I'm going to read another quote from the report. Hounslow is committed to supporting asylum seekers. Each person has their own unique story. There are 2,302 stories that, even if a few were told, will help us understand their experiences, the impact that this has had on their lives, and inform their health and well-being needs and the support services they need. Central government resource available to local areas is limited, and consequently, local authorities, the NHS, and voluntary organisations have had to organise to support asylum seekers in the absence of adequate health and well-being provision from central government. So while I appreciate what's being said from the opposition, understand why they've said what they've said, I think it is very clear where the blame in this lies, what we have done here in this borough and what needs to be done by central government. I'd just like to finish, Mr. Mayor, by thanking the Public Health team and Kelly O'Neill for this groundbreaking and powerful report. I'd like to thank Communities team, Elliot Brooks, his team, for their work in hotels and with asylum seekers. I'm really grateful to have been able to visit and meet with asylum seekers and hear firsthand their experience experiences which chime readily with what I've read here. I think tonight, colleagues, it's not what we say or agree, but it's what we do and how we act going forward from today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. May I ask member to vote on the recommendations? There are 3 in total, 2 for approval and 1 for noting. Please remember to vote for, vote against, and any abstentions. Can I ask for show of hands for vote for? Thank you. It's unanimous, I believe, but is there any against? No. Any abstentions? No. Report approved. Thank you. And thank you all members for your contribution. Okay. Agenda item 6, Hounslow Youth Justice Plan 2023-24. We now come to agenda item 6, the Hounslow Youth Justice Plan for 22-24, which starts at page 102 of your agenda. May I invite Lily Bass to propose the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to propose the Hounslow Youth Justice Plan tonight at Borough Council. So why are we proposing this plan tonight is that as a local authority, all local authorities have duties in terms of the youth justice services to children and young people in their area. And their main duty is to reduce offending by children through partnership work. So, for example, the council has a statutory duty to prevent children from entering the criminal justice system. But unfortunately, when they do, they also have a duty to prevent them from re-offending. So attached with this report is the plan. It outlines what our activities and what our achievements have been over the year and what our areas of development will be. And obviously, if you look through the plan, you'll see there are a number of activities that are provided with partnership with our relevant partners to ensure that young people have the right support if they enter the criminal justice people. I am referring to those under the age of 18 in this plan. One of the, we have areas for development. I mean, we're very fortunate that Hounslow is a low crime a borough, but obviously the fear of crime, the fear of knife crime amongst young people is high, quite understandably. But some of the areas of development that we want to sort of focus on in the coming years is prevention. We want to stop and improve our offer in terms of stopping children from actually entering the criminal justice system in the first place. We also want to improve engagement and consultation with children and their families, and including all of working very early with families. We also want to do a fair amount of work around disproportionality. We know that the statistics and the evidence is showing us that there is a disproportional involvement by some young people, for example, Black African children, into the criminal justice system in Hounslow, and also from children from the west of the borough, as well as those that are looked after. So those are sort of the areas of development that we need to be focusing on in the coming year. I also want to mention that in April, myself and Councillor Ajmer Garawal, we actually held a serious youth violence summit for the very first time in the borough. And that was a summit that was actually designed by young people and attended by, a good number of young people from the local schools in the borough. And we conducted a series of workshops around knife crime as well from our partners like Gangsline, and street doctors, workshops including street doctors as well, which was a very successful event. And through that event and through listening through young people, we will be designing our series youth violence strategy. So what I like to do is to move the report really and ask the council to approve the plan which is attached with the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. May I ask Councillor Ajmer Grewal to second the report?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bath, for this report. Youth Justice Plan and the work of the Justice Service linked to the Council's corporate priorities, which we've been working hard with to have a thriving Hounslow by supporting our young people, of course, as you said, to access the support, education, training or employment needs and address the effects of the pandemic on young people's learning and well-being. Also towards a safer Hounslow by implementing early intervention, as you said, approach to reduce serious crime among young people and to make it a livable Hounslow by developing better ways of engaging and working with our residents and the young. So I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you very much for bringing it to us.
Thank you, Councillor Grewal. May I invite members to comment, discuss, and debate the report? Yes, Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to see this report. We need positivity in this area, and we are getting a lot of that from the way the report has been presented, and I welcome it very much indeed. One of the things to... Sorry, am I not speaking loud enough? I beg your pardon. Okay. I'd like to thank everybody here for giving that round of applause, because I believe it's for the report, not for me. And it's very important that we actually take this report to the utmost seriousness. We have so many people who get lost in the Congress of Justice. And a Congress of Justice is where people are just going round and round and round in circles for no purpose. We need to break that spiral. And I believe this report's a very good starting point. Even if we haven't done enough in the past, we need to do more in the future. And we should not allow young lives to be lost in every sense, either through street crime or through inability to actually meet their ambitions. Humankind cannot be spoiled if we can save it. So let's get on and save it with this sort of plan and approach. And I'd like to just say I support the officers and the Justice Youth Team, and thank you so much for the work you put into this. It's a great report, and it just meets an issue which I mentioned briefly in the minutes of the last meeting. If you refer to that, you will say how impacting this area is, and I'm pleased I am that this report's been brought to council. And if anyone wants to talk to me about it later, I'm open to discussion. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Is there anyone? No? Okay, Councillor Mishicho, sorry.
Wow, how do I follow that, Councillor McGregor? Well spoken. Stand on 1 foot, maybe? Okay. Just like to welcome this report also and pay tribute to Councillor Lily Bath and the work that she's done on this. She mentions disproportionality among some of our, for example, a Black and ethnic minority youngsters. And I think she's absolutely right on that. But I think the other thing that perhaps I want to add to that is sometimes when you look at the youth justice system, there's another form of disproportionality that we should really consider. And I think Hounslow is doing a very, very commendable job in this, and that's the looked after children. We recently attended the Looked After Children Awards in Brentford with Councillor Lily Bath and others. And in that incident and in that situation, we were able to recognize the struggles and the hard work that our young people put in, day out, just to stay above water. And I think awards such as the recognition of Looked After Children's Award, it helps just to give our young people just that little bit of something to grasp onto, something to aim for. And I hope that that continues for a long, long time to come, because that's one of the ways that we can help alleviate the disproportionality of young people. And we know the statistics. 60% of young people in Feltham Young Offenders did or have experienced being in care. That is criminal in all sense of the word. And I think things like this, reports such as this, will go a long way in making sure that the lives of looked after children, especially, are for the better, not for the worse. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mashisho. Anyone else? No? May I ask Councillor Bath to sum up if you wish?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Mashisho and Councillor McGregor, for your positive words and encouragement. Absolutely right. Of course, we need to look at disproportionality, and I think that the teams have made a concerted effort to make that a real focus of their work, and they will be targeting that as a piece of work, as well as looked after children. I don't know if you've managed to read through the plan, and I don't want to talk about some of their amazing case studies, but there is some really good pockets of work going on, and if you look through the actual plan, you've got some case studies of some excellent sort of practices. But in terms of future development of this service and the focus on some of the sort of things that we've mentioned today, I will be bringing back the plan again the following year. And I think there are plans to actually develop a 3-year plan with annual updates. So hopefully for the future, we'll be able to have a wider debate. I think this is just, we're required to bring it to Borough Council. I think it's not been done before, but I think it's a really good move, and it will allow everybody here to have a debate and feed into it and shape it for the future as well. So I welcome your comments, and I look forward to working with everybody on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. May I ask members to vote on the recommendations, and there are 2 in total, both for approval. Please remember to vote for, against, and any abstentions. Can we take a vote by show of hands and vote for? It looks like unanimous, but I'll ask anyway. Any against? No. Any abstentions? No. Report approved. Thank you, members, for your contributions. Agenda item 7. Reference from Cabinet 14th November 2023. Treasury Management Mid-Year Report 2023-2024. We now move to item 7, which members can find on pages 164 to 176 in the agenda. Timings. Timings 20 minutes. Members will also note that there is an appendix to this report in the Part 2 section of the agenda at item 24. And whilst member can, of course, refer to it in the discussion on this item, members should avoid referring to its specific contents as it contains information which is exempt from publication. May I invite Councillor Rajawat to propose and introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief on this. This is a reference back from the Cabinet on the Treasury Management mid-year report for 23-24. This covers the 6 months ending 30th of September and details the Council's Treasury Management activity. That's borrowing, investments compared to our budget, which was set in February. This will be refreshed at budget setting in February coming. Of note, there are no concerns regarding the security or liquidity of our investments, and we're doing well, basically, is all I want to say. So I formally move this report.
Thank you, Councillor Rajawat. Do we have a seconder? Councillor, may I ask Councillor Lily Bath to
Thank you. I'd like
second
to
the report?
formally second the report and I reserve my right to speak, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Sorry. Okay. Can I invite members to comment, discuss, and debate the report? Councillor McGregor.
Thank you very much. You'll notice that in the yellow sheet, not for publication, we have an item there where we're currently invested in a particular bank that's gone through a very bad time recently. And I'm just wondering whether we should stay invested in that bank. Let me start again. My apologies. I generally have a booming voice, but I'm trying to keep quiet. I've been told to. So looking at this matter of the national, I will not go any further. There's a bank here stated in the statement where we are invested in, and it has had a bad time recently and lost a huge amount of value in shares. And I'm just wondering whether or not we've had advice on whether or not we should stay with this particular investment or whether we should move out. And again, if you look at the budget.
Councillor McGregor, can we ask Zyle to say something?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Mayor and members, if you wish to debate the content of the report, which is on the exempt part of the agenda, then that has to be debated in that part of the agenda. And I would caution about naming organisations in open council in that manner.
Councillor McGregor.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. There's a detailed technical issue within the report, which I'll take up with the Deputy Chief Accountant, with the Rupert again later on outside this meeting. And if there's a concern, I'll come back to the leader of the council and others who are obviously going to be concerned about it if I raise the matters appropriately. So I'll leave it at that, because I quite take the Chief Executive's point. We don't want to go into it if we can avoid it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McGregor. May I also ask members formally now to note item 24, which is the appendix, unless anyone wants to ask any question on it later in the meeting, in which case we'll then exclude the press and public at the relevant time. Thank you. May I ask members for their contributions? May I thank you members for their contribution? Thank you. Agenda item 8. Reference from Cabinet 14th November 2023, Hounslow Companies Shareholder Committee. We now come to agenda item 8, which is another reference from Cabinet about the new Cabinet subgroup, which starts at page 177 to 182. May I ask Councillor Rajawat to propose the report?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As you said, this is another reference back from the Cabinet and a very specific part of a larger piece of work that is going on across the organisation, looking at the relationship between the council and our wholly owned company, Lambton. That is not the subject of this report, although it is referenced. There are a number of documents that have been before Cabinet. This specifically comes before you because one of the recommendations out of that piece of work was to establish a subcommittee of the Cabinet called a shareholder board to give a clear understanding of the accountabilities and relationship between decisions that can be made in Lambton and their board and decisions that are reserved for the shareholder, i.e. us as a council. The report is before us tonight because it will require an amendment to the Constitution, and that is what you were asked to do. So I formally move the report, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, I'd like to second the report and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. May I now invite members to comment, discuss, and debate the report? Councillor Todd.
Yeah, it's interesting how a cabinet paper of 15 pages comes to this council in 5. The pricing is helpful, but it doesn't give the real facts and put the thing in context. Can I declare I'm a member of the audit committee? And during that process, we see internal audit reports from our internal auditor. Earlier this year, Lambton came up, and I tried to get it on the agenda of audit without success. The chairman overruled me. But more importantly, what I want to do is to try and put Lambton in context. So I want to read a few things from the audit report. The Lambton Group of companies has been trading since 2016, and while additional services have been moved into the group, since the core services remain the same. In this time, the council has not conducted any strategic review of Lambton Group of companies and their services, nor has it tested the market to ensure the service the companies provide represent value for money and the most effective service for residents. This means that these core services have not been reviewed to ensure they remain the best value model for delivery in 6 years. The council has recently commissioned a report by the Association of Public Service Excellence to conduct a strategic view of the companies. This should be the start of a review. Now, I've asked to see that review today and haven't got it. I want to speak in favour of the change, but I had to highlight the deficiencies in the current system. There were no minutes taken. The KPIs were not updated. The performance indicators that are in place do not measure resident satisfaction. This is the main strategic objective of the council when measuring these services and should so be measured. I'll give another example. The results of Colo came up the last 6 months, which showed that the number of repairs to our properties went up from 50 to over 1,000. I really can't handle it when that goes before a cabinet with thousands of pages and lots of schedules, and no one says enough's enough. What's the explanation? So I'm very pleased to see, Mr. Mayor, that in the new briefing, one of the officers will provide a briefing to the shareholder board, in which each performance package presented is to highlight areas where the shareholder board should challenge Lambton. So I'm wishing it success. I do hope there'll be a radical change of approach and oversight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Todd. Any other members? Okay, Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a meeting with the Deputy Chief Executive and a senior member of the finance team last week, and I was promised answers to a set of detailed questions to enable me to address the council. There was a complete failure to provide the information. I've got no sign of it whatsoever from either of the two officers who attended the meeting. They received the documentation via our group secretary. It's a list of detailed questions, the sort of things that ought to be in the public domain. Perhaps before I go any further, I can just stop a moment and allow someone to answer what happened there. Does anyone know what happened? Can I acknowledge Councillor Rajwat?
Yes, Councillor Rajwat.
So I wasn't party to that meeting. Can I ask Nala's chief executive to respond?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. A very unusual situation. I'm speaking twice in a council meeting. The responses to your questions are being prepared, Councillor McGregor, and I'm aware that they are available and they will be with you tomorrow.
Councillor Chief Executive, thank you very much for that cogent answer. I did actually have an acknowledgement that if I got the information to them immediately after the meeting, I would get the information back in order for me to speak at the Borough Council. However, my colleague has got the questions, and I'll just take over from him for a moment and tell you what the questions were to read them into the minutes. Okay, here we go.
Councillor McGregor, if it's difficult to
okay,
find
here we
it,
go.
then you can email it to the
Okay,
relevant.
here we go. It's no problem. I can read it out now. I can read it into the minutes. Okay. What is to stop this particular set of companies becoming a similar failed entity to that of Brick by Brick of Croydon and Solar Farm Investment in Thurrock? No answer. What are the financial investment conduct professional qualifications of the proposed appointment directors, including members of this council? What present personal liability will directors have to taxpayers as shareholders, for example, the requirement to sign the accounts
Councillor
off
McGregor,
in a personal capacity?
can I just stop you there, because the chief executive just told you that you will have your answers by tomorrow.
But Mr. Mayor, as I said in my opening remarks, I'm reading this into the minutes to ensure that I do get the answers. These are questions that are pertinent to the matter in hand. Because nobody else is asking these questions.
Councillor McGregor, please, you have sent these questions in an email, so please wait for the answers. You were told that you will get an answer by tomorrow. Thank you.
The answer was due today, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, but the chief executive has stated that you will get an answer by tomorrow, so please.
The chief executive was not part of the construct of this discussion.
So can you please, stop this and we'll continue the meeting, because you will get an answer by tomorrow and then they will provide you the explanation as well. Thank you. Okay. May I ask Councillor Rajwat to sum up if you wish? Councillor Unsa, yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair of Order, I'd just like to remind Councillor Todd that we have agreed to bring it to committee, and it's agreed for early in the new year. So that's just to remind him that we have actually agreed that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Unsa Chaudhary. May I ask Councillor Rajwat to sum up if you wish?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very grateful for Councillor Chowdhury's clarification there. It's absolutely right that it goes to audit. Never going to stop that. I don't recognise the comments that Councillor Todd made, but what I would say is that the changes that have been proposed, the Cabinet have agreed, are evolution of our relationship. It's absolutely right. I dispute the fact that reporting is done behind closed doors. The company produces a report on a quarterly basis that is in the public domain for everyone to see and challenge. It is a very comprehensive report. If Councillor Todd would like, I'm happy to send him the latest iteration of it. It is very, very comprehensive. And Councillor Todd always has access to officers and can ask the questions that he needs to. So I don't recognise all of his comments on this, but we have to be focused. This report is not about the whole of Lambton. This is about a change in the Constitution that allows a subcommittee of Cabinet to be created. And that is it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. May I ask members to vote on the recommendations? There are 2 in total, both for approval. Please remember to vote for, against, and abstention. Can we take a vote by show of hands now? Mr. Mishisho, if you want to clap, you can clap, Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Report approved. Sorry.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Can I move we suspend the guillotine, please? which should be 2.5, this meeting's 2.5 hours long, it should finish at 10. We're not getting through the agenda. So can I propose that the guillotine be suspended and we go to our 11 o'clock maximum?
Okay, can we go to vote? Yeah, can we go to vote? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Agenda item 9. Reference from the Audit and Governance Committee, 24th January 2023 and 20th September 2023. Change of polling station venues. We now come to agenda item 9, which is a reference from the Audit and Governance Committee and can be found at page 83 to 204 of your agenda. May I invite Councillor Unsa Chaudhary to propose the report? Okay, Councillor Rajwat, can you
I can.
propose the
Thank you.
report? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is a reference back from the Audit and Governance Committee. We are required to carry out a review of our polling places. All right, okay. We're required to carry out a review of our polling stations and polling places every 4 years. However, in Hounslow, we have a tradition of doing that on a rolling basis. And when there are changes required, they go before the Audit and Governance Committee. And I'm grateful to the Audit and Governance Committee for looking at the proposals that sit before you. There are a small number of changes to polling places that are contained within the report that have been agreed by the Audit and Governance Committee. And our next major update to polling places commence next year, early next year. So we'll be back to the Audit and Governance Committee with those as well. So I formally move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'd like to second the report and I reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. May I invite members to comment, discuss, and debate? Thank you, Dan.
Councillor McGregor, Chaudhary, and
Okay. Councillor McGregor first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I represent the ward of Homefields in Chiswick, and we are proposing to move the site of a polling station from St. Michael and All Angels Church at the corner of Bath Road next to Turnham Green Station, where the footfall is very, very great. And we're moving it to the other end of Bath Road to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Both are suitable buildings, but I am confused because I got a report from electoral services saying the church authorities did not want to continue offering the service as a public service to the council. I've investigated. None of the church authorities have said they actually spoke to the electoral officers at the time when this comment was allegedly made. There are other tenants in the building which we use as a polling booth during the election. And it's my belief, having made substantial investigation, that it was one of the tenants who spoke to the electoral officers, indicating their dissatisfaction with the fact that their services in the floor above were being limited by the way in which the polling station was being carried out. The person who spoke was not authorized to speak on behalf of the church. I raised this matter directly with the polling team, the electoral team in the council, and they promised to review that. So we've now got to a situation where, having raised the matter as a councillor, I did not receive satisfaction, and I'm not receiving satisfaction now from the electoral office in the council. We are moving from a most satisfactory polling area, which has been in place for the majority of the life of Hounslow, to an unsatisfactory polling area, because the question of local transport means that pensioners will have to take a different route to get to the polling station, which is no longer on a direct route from their homes to Chiswick High Road, where they do their shopping. We're going to see, I believe, a reduction in polling because of the nature of the position of the polling station. And that is not to be put up with. I look forward to having this remedied and this part of the plan being reviewed again before it's put into operation.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Councillor McGregor, it's very unfair to criticize the officers here in this meeting because they are not part of this meeting and they are unable to answer
Mr.
this.
Mayor,
You know.
with due respect, I did not criticize the officers. I mentioned
yeah.
the fact that people involved with them raised the issue. The
Okay.
officers were not
All right.
criticized in any way.
Councillor McGregor, please take a seat. So if you have written to them, wait for their answers. And if they have any issues, please, bring it to us, to the relevant cabinet members so they can deal with it. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Councillor Unsa Chaudhary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a vote of thanks actually to say to officers. If you note, this was brought to the audit committee in January earlier this year, and then it was brought again in September. And the reason it was brought again in September is because of that very reason. The officers investigated why the church was saying that actually we do accept for it to be a polling station. So I feel the officers did do their due diligence and they did speak to the people who they need to speak with. They came back and reported to us and said, actually, you've raised this issue. I think it was Councillor Todd who raised it with me directly in the first instance. The officers looked into it in January, a lot through the whole period, came back in September, so that's quite a time of consideration for them, having reviewed this, and they came back saying that it's not possible to hold it there. That was their preference, because obviously we've got that set up. It would make things a lot easier, it would make things easier for the officers. But unfortunately, that's what came back to us. So that's why, as an audit committee, from the information that we were given, we agreed that it should be relocated. Thank you.
Unsa Chaudhary. Can I ask Richard Food to?
Thank you, Chair. This morning, I was advised by one of the council officers at the polling station at St Richard's School in Hamworth. It looks like it may be up for repairs during crossing the period of the election. And in my discussions with the officer this morning, we've suggested that we move to the adjoining St Richard's Church, and that I believe is being picked up and discussed. But that's as hot as that. It's happened this morning.
Thank you, Councillor Richard. Can I ask Councillor Rajwa to sum up?
I'm fine, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. May I ask members to vote on the recommendations? There is just one for approval. Can I remind members, 1 for vote for, number 2 against, and 3 abstentions. Can we take a vote by show of hands now? Vote for? Okay, almost unanimous. Against? Any abstentions? 1 abstention? What?
Any further abstention? Just 1 abstention.
Who is the one?
Sorry? Doesn't matter. He's not in the room for the vote.
Yeah, he is not in the room, yeah, so that's fine. Thank you. Report approved. Thank you, members, for your contributions. Thank you. Agenda item 10. Appointment of Executive Director, Finance and Resources, Section 151 Officer. We now come to agenda item 10, which can be found at page 204 to 208 of the papers. I now invite Councillor Rajawat to propose the item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the resignation of Clive Powerman, who got a new job in Southwark, we went out to the market to recruit his replacement, the new Executive Director for Finance and Resources. I'm pleased to report to Council we had an incredibly good field, lots of interest in working for Hounslow, in being part of our transformation of this borough and our ambition for this borough. I'm really pleased to announce that the interview panel, which consisted of myself, Councillor Dunn as Deputy Leader, Councillor Ajmer Gariwal and Councillor Biddulph, were unanimous in recommending to Council this evening that Jake Bacchus be appointed as our Executive Director for Finance and Resources. Jake will be joining us from Westminster Council, where he is currently Deputy Chief Finance Officer. He brings a wealth of experience. He currently runs their budget process. He was telling us in the interview their capital programme is over £2 billion, which just boggled my mind a little bit. I thought ours was big, but clearly much, much bigger. So he has the depth and the respect across finance treasurers and is a trusted pair of hands. But more than a trusted pair of hands, he demonstrated in interview his ability to be innovative, to think outside the box, which I think are skills that will hold him well as being a team player as well. So the report formally recommends that appointment. I do so very gladly. I thank the panel for their support during that interview process. And the report also details some of the other statutory responsibilities that Jake will be taking on, but also reaffirming some of the other statutory responsibilities that will remain with the current post holders. And I'm absolutely delighted to move this report. I look forward to having Jake on board.
Thank you, Councillor Rajawat. Do we have a seconder? Councillor
Thank you.
Lilibath.
I formally second the report.
Thank you. May I now invite members to comment, discuss, and debate the report? Agreed? Okay. Thank you. Excellent. Agenda item 11, appointments to committees and other bodies. We now come to appointments, which is a standing item on our agenda. May I also draw members' attention to the nomination which are included in the supplementary agenda. Is there any other nominations? So nomination agreed. Okay. Thank you. Agenda item 12. Decision taken under urgency arrangement. May I ask members to note the report listed on the agenda front sheet and wait for them. Yeah, don't see. May I remind members that there is no debate on this item. So if any members wish to speak, ask them to, yeah, sorry. Okay, it's just for noting. Sorry about this. Okay, it's just for noting. It's not for debate. Thank you. Thank you, members. Agenda item 13. Questions. Councillor Marina Sharma to ask Councillor Lilibath, Cabinet Member for Education, Children, Skills and Employment. We now come to the part of the meeting where we deal with council questions. We have 5 this evening and a total of 45 minutes to deal with them. I now invite Councillor Marina Sharma to ask her question. Councillor Marina Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're all aware from the national media, charitable organisations and research that there is often a negative perception of the life experience of those children and young people either looked after by local councils or with previous care experience. For example, it's widely reported that almost 25% of adult prison population have previously been in care and nearly 50% of under 21-year-olds in contact with the criminal justice system have spent time in care. Can the Cabinet Member for Education, Children, Skills and Employment tell us what the Council does to support and celebrate the achievements of our young people in care in Hounslow? Thank you.
Thank you. May I invite Councillor Bass to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Marina Sharma, for the question. As you quite rightly highlighted, many of the children who do become looked after, unfortunately, sometimes do bring with them a variety of adverse childhood experiences through physical or sexual abuse, trafficking, or as a result of neglectful parenting and family breakdowns. And indeed, some young people become looked after by virtue of being remanded into custody in the first place, exactly what we were talking about earlier on in the report. So they each have a unique story and bring with them the impact and trauma of those lived experiences. As corporate parents, it's not only our duty, but also our desire and ambition to do our very best to provide the care in which they can begin to heal and see a more positive future for themselves. In recognition of these challenges, Hounslow services are well set up to support children and young people in every areas of their lives, ranging from engagement with our virtual college to help improve their educational outcomes, and also to have access to stable placements and in-house therapists to address emotional turmoil. Children and young people are also encouraged and rewarded by the holistic professional network around them through regular incentives, regardless of how small those steps might be. But one of the highlights of my year took place recently at the Kids in Care Award, the Kicker Awards, and I think you were there, Councillor Mashisha, and some other members were also there. It's always a privilege to attend this event because it gives us an opportunity to celebrate some really positive achievements amongst some of our looked after children. And I'm just going to highlight some of the recognitions. There were 70 recognitions in total. Don't worry, I'm not going to speak about the whole 70, but I think it's important to mention some of these achievements. So we had a young person who did not wish to attend school initially, and is now engaging with their education and has a 100% attendance rate through the encouragement of the virtual college. Then we had several years of non-school attendance from somebody before coming into care. And another young person has progressed exceptionally well, both at school and in extracurricular sporting activities. One of our young people has made excellent progress in learning guitar, and I think we heard a bit of that, didn't we? On that, but those that were there will know what that was. It was really good. And also, we've obviously, I sometimes report here that we have a number of looked after children that go into university, and that is gradually increasing. So I think that is a really positive step. Placement. Actually, I want to highlight something else. The number of, as I said, the number of looked after children going into university is gradually increasing. And in fact, this year we've had more care leavers that went to university than are currently in prison. So I think that's a really good outcome. Yeah. So placement stability is also a key issue for our looked after children. And so we want to invest in those who are investing in our young people, and the often unsung heroes we called our foster carers. And this coming Friday, I will be attending Hounslow's annual Foster Carers Award ceremony with the leader, which acknowledges all of those foster carers who give so much of their time and dedication to looking after our young people. Despite our collective hard work and efforts, sadly, we do have challenges, and overcoming trauma and instability does take time for those that are struggling. But as you heard earlier on, we do have our youth justice system and our support from them, particularly for those young people who might be serving time in prison. And we have a recent example of that, who is being supported by our youth offending team. As a lead member, I do feel incredibly proud of all of these services and celebrations and achievements. And I think it's really important that we celebrate all of the achievements, no matter how little they are, because it's little steps that go on to big things. So thank you very much for the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Councillor Sharma, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bath and Councillor Sharma. Agenda item 14. Councillor Emma Sidhu to ask Councillor Guy Lambert, Cabinet Member for Highways, Recycling and Health Integration. May I invite Councillor Emma Sidhu to ask her question?
In July 2022, the council launched a commercial recycling and waste collection services for all businesses in the borough in order to support our local business by offering them a reliable, competitive price service to keep our streets clean and tidy with a focus on the environment. Can the lead member update the council on the progress of this service? And what is the uptake of the business and its delivering of the expected results for both business and council?
Thank you, Councillor Sidhu. May I invite Guy Lambert to respond?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Sidhu, for the question. Since July 2022, the business recycling and waste service has grown from 6 customers with 25 collection locations to 142 customers with 172 collections. 81% of the collection locations are small local traders, and the service is usually below £2,000 per year. Lambton serves the whole borough, and its customers are all over, from Hamworth to Chiswick, and particularly strong where there are a lot of retailers. I'm delighted by that because it helps with our mission to make the streets cleaner. Customers include the Treaty Centre, the Heston Hyde Hotel, and it even has a Michelin star in the shape of the La Trompette restaurant in Chiswick. The service covers all sorts of waste and recycling, from the normal household waste waste that we deliver through to hazardous waste and building and event waste. Customers are happy, as our rating of 4.8 marked out of 5 shows, and every single customer who's responded to our customer service satisfaction survey would recommend our service and are happy to be quoted about it, saying things like, collections take place on agreed days and the team are polite and professional, and I would recommend them to other local businesses. A lot of our customers do this, and that is why we're growing so fast. The icing on the cake, the service won a West London Chambers 2023 Business Award at last week's event as the best support, advice and services company. So that's very good. Not only is the service competitively priced, but through providing collections at agreed times and dates, unlike its competitors, it seems, the business recycling waste service has been able to advise businesses who are looking for a change and help them to move smoothly to Lambton as soon as contracts allow. Although everybody who works for Lambton is paid at least the London living wage at the minimum, quite a lot more than many competitors, after only just a year after starting trading, the service was recorded as profitable in September 2023, which was a lot earlier than we thought was likely to be possible. It's a great tribute to the management there and also the people who deliver the service. I'm proud of everything that Lambton's 360's recycling service, which provides excellent service to our residents, and is now extending that service to the wider community, bringing in new revenue to support our services and better services to our traders, which also helps our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Emma Sidhu, do you have a supplementary?
No, thank you.
Thank you. In that case, Councillor Emma Sidhu and Councillor Lambert, thank you for your contribution. We move on to next agenda item 15. Councillor Gerald McGregor to ask Councillor Sue Sampson, Cabinet Member for Housing Management and Homelessness. Members will be aware that Councillor Sue Sampson has sent her apologies for tonight's meeting. As such, I will be asking Councillor Rajawat to respond to this question and the next one. and Councillor Bruce will respond to the last question this evening. May I ask Councillor McGregor to ask his question?
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. And the question I'm asking is as stated in the agenda this evening.
Councillor Rajat, may I ask you to respond to the question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor McGregor, for the question. So you'll be aware the council has a legal duty to set, maintain, and deliver a sustainable housing revenue account, or HRA, as it's referred to. The account is a ring-fence fund with its own specific rules and protections within the council's accounts. All council finances have been affected by the period of high inflation and associated high interest rates that followed the pandemic. These have a particular impact on the HRA in the form of permitted rent and service charge increases, increases to direct costs of management and maintenance of the stock, and increased financing and construction costs for development. In January, we gave an update to Cabinet, and in that we expected inflation and interest rates to begin to fall early in 2023. However, this has not proven the case, so we have scheduled a refresh of the business plan to be presented to Cabinet in January 2024. I can report, Councillor McGregor, that presently the HRA remains sustainable. But we cannot ignore these impacts, and we'll be re-examining our proposals to ensure that we have appropriate mitigations of risk and contingencies in place should the economic conditions deteriorate further or persist longer than is expected. The Cabinet paper will consider and discuss these in full and is scheduled to be published on the 8th of January 2024. So to give context and to answer the direct question on the size of the HRA, from the most recent HRA business plan, as I said, published in January of this year, there are approximately 16,000 HRA units in total, 13,000 tenanted, including 900 sheltered, and 3,000 leaseholder properties. We do not hold full information on the occupants of leaseholder properties, but if you extrapolate from the information on the tenants, it's likely that they are home to around 40,000 Hounslow residents. The annual rent, service charge, and other HRA income is around £100 million, including £81.1 million of tenant rent. Management overheads, repairs, and maintenance expenditure before servicing of debt is around £80 million a year, of which the estate investment capital programme, which contributes to the council's pledge to invest in existing council homes, consists of £29.7 million spend. We absolutely remain committed to providing decent, safe, and environmentally sustainable homes for all our council residents and building more genuinely affordable homes to help with the ongoing housing crisis in the borough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. May I ask Councillor McGregor if you have any supplementary question?
I have a supplementary. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that very long and well-exampled answer. After 60 years of socialist-controlled administration in Hounslow, resulting in the borough being one of the most socially deprived local authorities in England, lowest quartile, is it right to have the continuous repair and maintenance problems affecting many of our socially deprived residents, living in accommodation provided directly by the council administration opposite? And how do you propose to fix this problem given the state of the housing revenue account?
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Councillor Rajwat, to respond.
I mean, a little bit of a cheap shot, but okay, we will answer that. I mean, we talked earlier about the relationship between Lambton and the council. That is absolutely just completed a review. We remain committed to fixing housing. In my earlier answer, I referenced how money in equals money out. So the money that comes in rent includes money out for maintenance, and that will continue. And yes, we have acknowledged that there is work to do here. It is a very difficult circumstance, but we have to remember that our housing stock is in good repair. We have invested in it over the years. We are continuing to invest in it. The real problem here is not the socialist administration of Hounslow. It's decades of government, Tory governments, not allowing us to build housing. Let's be clear about that, Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat and Councillor McGregor, for your contributions. Agenda item 16. Councillor Ron Mashisho to ask Councillor Sue Sampson, Cabinet Member for Housing Management and Homelessness. May I ask Councillor Ron Mashisho to ask his question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier this year, the council took part in the government's urgent review into damp and mold following the case of Awab Ishaq from Rochdale, who, Mr. Mayor, tragically died in December 2022. So will the cabinet member update us? I know she's not here, but Councillor Bruce is here Councillor Rajwat is here in her place. Will the cabinet member therefore update us on what the council has done since this urgent investigation last year to tackle damp and mold? And can he now tell us how many cases the council has identified where homes have been found to present serious and immediate risk to a person's health and safety due to damp and mold?
Thank you, Councillor Mashisho. Can I ask Councillor Rajwat to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Mashisho. Very, very, very important question. So thank you for the question. So as of 20th of November, most recent figures that I was able to get hold of, we're dealing with the following damp and mold cases that have been identified where homes have been found to be to present serious and immediate risk to a person's health and safety due to damp and mold. So in total, 1,164 cases have been identified, and these are broken down as follows: 223 cases in category 1, which is bands A to C. And just to update you, 190 of those 223 are marked as resolved. So there is some work to do, but 190 are resolved. And then there are 941 cases in category 2, which is bands D to J. And of that, 817 are marked as resolved. Just to put a little bit more meat on the answer, as part of the damp and mold action plan, we have carried out a review of the roles and functions of those involved with managing damp and mold cases. We've commissioned and recruited a new Healthy Homes task force to tackle damp and mold washes and treatments. And the operational go live on that was the 26th of June this year. We provided certified in-person and online awareness training for all relevant LBH and Lambton colleagues, including operatives, surveyors and officers in June and September 2023. We've identified the need to extend our messaging to reach and engagement through the creation of resident workshops, and that is a work in progress. We produced various forms of communication and literature to raise residents' awareness on how to maintain a healthy home more generally. We've set up Healthy Homes case review forums for complex and serious cases, and we held the first ever integrated NHS and housing forum recently. We've also drafted and implemented processes for dealing with reports of damp and mold in council properties, private sector leasing properties and schools. And we've implemented monthly meetings with representatives from the contact centre, asset management, homelessness, independence and preventative services, private sector leasing, sheltered, temporary accommodation and Lambton services. So a multi-agency approach to dealing with this very important issue. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mashisho, for the question. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I thank the leader, in fact, for that very detailed answer. Commend him for that. But in my supplementary, I have a letter here regarding a resident in my ward, Renata Zakharoka, who has been waiting for 6 years. So would the lead member help me by looking specifically at this case with me? Because the GP has said that the damp and mold has contributed to the health and ill health and well-being of her 2 children who are under the age of 10, both living in a studio flat. The flat covered with mold and damp and has been untreated for the last 6 years. Will he look at that with me.
Mashisho, Councillor Rajwat, to
Yeah,
respond.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Mashisho, forgive me, that sounded a lot like casework, and we don't discuss individual caseworks in this context. Absolutely, we'll look at that, and for any member that is having issues, Councillor Sampson and myself are very happy to look at cases where there may be an issue and try and get those resolved. That's absolutely the case. That will always remain the case.
Thank you, Councillor Mashisho and Councillor Rajwat. We are now moving to agenda item 17. Councillor Peter Thompson to ask Councillor Sue Sampson, Cabinet Member for Housing Management and Homelessness. May I ask Councillor Peter Thompson to ask his question?
8 weeks ago, Councillor Sampson announced it was her ambition to let every empty council home in Hounslow by the end of the year. Is she still confident that she will achieve this?
Can I ask Councillor Bruce to respond?
Yes, very happy to. I think it's a very important question. Clearly, we're all invested in ensuring all of our council stock is used is maximised to its fullest, and ensuring people are given appropriate accommodation. I think it's important to stress when we're talking about voids that not all voids are created equally. Some have, lots have different designations or the different reasons for them being voids, and they're in different circumstances. Important to note that there will always be a level of voids. This is a good place to be. It's a simple fact of the general turnover. The expected percentage of voids is around 2%. On current numbers, that's around 260 properties. And as of last Friday, we actually have 262 voids, made up of some available to let immediately and others needing additional remedial work. So it's clear that numbers of voids on all measures are reducing. From over 500 earlier this year to our current levels is a reduction of around 50%. The team is working hard to continue to clear any backlog. For complete transparency, there are around a further 90 properties without a rent account against them, but where these are not technically voids due to their use as a decant for remedial work being carried out in a council property, or they may be awaiting some significant redevelopment where they won't, in their current circumstances, or whatever the circumstances, be used as a council property without any significant work on them. So to specifically answer your question, I think actually reflecting on what Councillor Sampson said, I believe in a scrutiny meeting where she said it would be reduced to zero, what she meant was that it would be reduced to zero against the budgeted level, which is 260 a number of voids, which is the 2% number. And we are very close to that. I have no doubt that this number will fluctuate. We might, it might come back and Councillor Sampson next time will report that it's gone below that. And another time you might ask a question and it goes slightly above that. But what is clear, and I reiterate in my answer to your question, is that the team are working extremely hard on this. There has been a reduction in the number of voids, and we are at an appropriate level at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Thompson, you don't have a supplementary. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Bruce, for your contribution. Next, agenda item 18, motions proposed by Councillor Ron Mashisho and seconded by Councillor Kuldeep Tuck.
Could I have a point of order to start with, Mr. Mayor? Could we suspend standing orders on this? We've got quite a few motions to get through. So could I propose we suspend standing orders, please, for motions?
Okay, can we vote on that? Agreed. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. We are now at the part of the agenda devoted to motions. We have 3 motions to consider this evening and only 30 minutes to discuss them.
As long as you like.
All right. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So we have already suspended that. Okay, that's fine. Okay. May I ask members to bear this in mind when making contribution? We therefore now move on to the first motion, which can be found at agenda item 18. I now therefore invite Councillor Ron Mashisho to propose the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's true that as urban and suburban population continue to grow and traditional delivery methods of medium-sized goods are becoming increasingly unsustainable. The other day, for example, it took me an hour and 35 minutes to drive less than 12 miles in the Borough. This is the reality of what has happened since the council decided that it was a good idea to impose road closures and restrictions leading to congestions, emissions, and frustrations for our motorists. So I note that the delivery times and the ability to get from A to B is now of a critical concern for our own council-owned fleet of vehicles and for our businesses and residents that rely on the movement of medium-sized goods. So cargo bikes, therefore, can be a smart, fast, and cost-effective alternative for both capital investment and running costs. What's more, that if this council seeks to stick to its net zero target, here is their window of opportunity to make some progress. We can picture it now, Mr. Mayor. A fleet of one Hanslow branded cargo bikes zigzagging their way through the stationary high traffic neighborhoods from Hanslow House to Sion House, on to Chiswick House, then perhaps back to Freddie Mercury's house and possibly to your house, Mr. Mayor. So that's why this council believes that cargo bikes can benefit the entire community. If we set the example tonight, we can help reduce congestion, relieve the general parking pressures, and perhaps reduce the amount of parking fines that are being handed out to our businesses and local residents. Although, Mr. Mayor, I must warn that cargo bikes can be as equally as dangerous and unsafe to pedestrians as is to users. I know this because I use it. In most situations where collisions in
Silence, please. Yeah.
I'll start again from that side. I must warn that, Mr. Mayor, cargo bikes can be equally dangerous and unsafe to pedestrians and to users. But in most situations where collisions occurred with the pedestrians, you would hope that it was with a bike rather than with a vehicle. Because, Mr. Mayor, we should look to make bike safety a necessity for cargo bike users. We have all signed up to Vision Zero, and we want zero accidents on our road. And that's why I believe that training when we are implementing cargo bikes is important. We must all adhere to the highway code and learn to share that road. So as someone who frequently volunteers to ride these cargo bikes at our Chiswick flower markets, I can tell you now that riding a bike is a great way for physical, social, and emotional health. The thrill of coming down Wellesley Road with the wind behind your back, passing the stationary traffic, whizzing past the town hall, and turning right onto Chiswick High Road to serve another customer is an experience like no other. Mr. Mayor, I recommend you to take part this Sunday as a cargo bike rider. But on the economic note, cargo bikes are a great capital investment, cheap to run, and of course, more efficient across the board. Other boroughs like Richmond have already signed up and are helping their communities. We can do the same, but we can also go one step further. Imagine a cargo bike dedicated to our markets in Chiswick, one that can be loaned to our community events to help them set and run errands. Imagine even setting up a delivery service network to help our elderly and most vulnerable with their shopping, similar to that of the NHS Responder app, of which some of us were part of. The cargo bike scheme may even give this administration credibility in trying to create that clean, greener, and safer Hanslow. The council therefore resolves that in order to get this done, we must improve the internal logistics, assessing the feasibility of bringing cargo bikes into the borough fleet and provide cargo bike training for council staff and other volunteers. We then also resolve that the improvement infrastructure of residents and businesses be put in place to consider cargo bikes when designing future and more inclusive community-supported cycle lanes. And finally, Mr. Mayor, we resolve that by identifying local cargo bike case studies and including them in communications and highlighting specific businesses and individuals on social channels, we can engage with council leaders across this borough and promote cargo bike scheme for hire as well as for use. Mr. Mayor, we are for cargo bikes. We are for cargo bikes because they are a supplement to our local transport network, to support our local community and support our local economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mashishu. I would like to invite Councillor Kuldeep Tak to second the motion and speak to it if he wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second the motion and I'll speak now. Using the cargo bikes is a great way to reduce our carbon footprints, and I believe these are the future for local deliveries, which at the moment are either done by cars, vans, or motorbikes. So right now, if I order a pizza, it will most probably arrive by a car or a motorbike. I want to see that changed. And what could be a better alternative than a cargo bike? However, there are few concerns that we'll need to address. While the cargo bikes are comparatively cheaper to purchase and run as compared to cars and vans, they could be dangerous without proper safety gear and training on how to handle these bikes. And I'm sure everyone here will agree with me on that. Therefore, we should introduce free cargo bike trainings for council staffs, to business, to members of public who wish to use these cargo bikes, in helping them to adapt and transition to these sustainable transport methods. We should also factor in the cargo bikes while planning the future road infrastructure, as all these measures collectively will eventually help us in achieving our net zero goals, which is the need of the hour. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
On behalf of the Conservative Group, I'd like to thank Councillor Bowring for that motion. And I'll make an offer to the Conservative Group. If they're ever short of ideas for motion, you just have to ask us, guys. We've got loads of ideas. And apart from the little bit of Councillor Machita wandering off into the fantasy land of LTNs, we're all violently agreeing on this, Mr. Mayor. So I move we take it straight to the vote. I mean, we don't need to discuss
Can we make
it.
it
It's a great
short?
idea. We thought it was a great idea, so I move we go straight to the vote, please.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. I think, but please, concentrate on the meeting. Yeah. Thank you.
So it's requested the motion be put.
So what was your request,
That the motion be put.
It was moved and seconded that we go straight to the vote, please, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
And then on substantive.
Yeah. So now we're going for vote for a substantive motion. Yeah. So agreed?
Agreed. The motion is agreed.
Okay. Motion agreed. Yeah.
Right, we're on to item number 19.
Okay. The councillors, please, respect the house. Agenda item 19, proposed by Councillor Amy Croft and seconded by Councillor Madhia Asim. We therefore now move on to the second motion, which can be found at the agenda item 19. May I draw members' attention to a proposed amendment to this motion, which can be found in the supplementary agenda published earlier this evening. I now therefore invite Councillor Amy Croft to propose the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion is on approaches to crime. The council notes, as I'm sure many residents will, the effects of funding cuts to public service over the last 10 years, which has resulted in a culture of priority policing, where the police are forced to make difficult choices about where to spend their resources. Just as a flavour, over 90% of crimes are going unsolved at present. That means far more criminals being let off and far more victims being let down. Town centre crime is increasing. The British Retail Consortium found that abuse against retail staff had more than doubled compared to pre-pandemic levels. We're in a situation where Tesco's have had to offer all of their staff body cameras. John Lewis have reported £12 million in goods stolen from shops over the past year, yet there are 10,000 fewer neighbourhood police and PCSOs on our streets and in our town centres than there were in 2015. Criminal damage affecting town centres is up almost 20% compared to pre-pandemic levels. And most chilling of all, in the over 520 burglaries that will be reported today, only 20 of them will be charged. And that is down to the resourcing that is available to both the police force, to the prison service, and everything around our criminal justice system. Right across the country, victims of crime feel that no one comes and nothing is done. And that's a direct result of this. Record numbers of victims are dropping out of criminal proceedings, 1.4 million last year alone. Record numbers of crimes are being dropped due to evidential difficulties, over 2 million last year. The proportion of crimes charged has dropped 60% since 2015. And that is a direct result of cuts to funding across the board as a direct result of the last 13 years of Tory government. So there seemed to be a theme of cheap tricks, so I thought I'd have one too. As we've heard today from the cabinet members, specifically Lily in relation to the youth justice plan, there is a huge amount of things that are being done across many departments in the council to help specifically with antisocial behaviour, and the council and the officers work incredibly hard on a number of different areas. This motion aims to make the apathy about reporting crime and the apathy that is felt by our residents because of the funding cuts, because of the police resourcing, to make it easier for our residents to report those crimes both to the police but also to us, because there's an awful lot that goes on in the council, and I don't think that's always necessarily felt by residents because they don't see necessarily what is happening. So the point of this motion is that we as a council have a duty to assist the police and help our residents feel safe. This isn't, I want to make it clear, this is not, we're not blaming the police for this. We're blaming the funding cuts for the state that the police are in, and the fact that we are having to help and make our residents feel safe in something that we shouldn't necessarily need to do, because that should be done by the police. So we recognise that it's too often that we don't get to hear about some of the issues that residents are facing. Residents have an apathy towards reporting to the police because they feel that nothing is done, and they don't necessarily report these things to us. It's our duty of councillors to report back what our residents are feeling, and therefore for us to then take action. So the council resolves to ensure that our work to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour is better communicated to residents, as are the ways in which we can assist residents to feel safe. We will work with councillors and residents to ensure that they are aware of clear channels to report these issues to the council as well as the police, and that all councillors are aware that also that is their duty. And also of initiatives already running within the council to tackle antisocial behaviour. This will allow us to better enhance the work of the police and make our residents feel safe. I will not comment on the proposed amendment at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Croft. I would like to invite Councillor Madhya Asim to second the motion and speak to it if she wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am delighted to second this motion today. Mr. Mayor, it goes without saying that ensuring the residents of our borough feel safe remains a top priority within this council. As a key stakeholder, this council continues to work collaboratively with both residents and the police to promote and deliver initiatives that help tackle antisocial behaviour and crime within our borough. However,
This council also recognises that efforts to implement and deliver these initiatives have been hampered by cuts to police services from central government. Data from the National Police Chiefs Council illustrates £3.6 billion in direct cuts to police funding by the Tory government since 2010. In addition to this, the Tory government also failed to deliver on their pledge to instate an additional 7,000 frontline officers to patrol the streets. Failures at the national level have had a knock-on effect at the local level, putting additional strain on policing across Hounslow. The reduction in visible frontline officers patrolling the streets has further sparked feelings of fear and vulnerability among residents. Furthermore, figures published by the Office of National Statistics show that 1 in 2 and 1 in 7 men felt unsafe walking alone after dark in a busy public place. What's even more concerning is that 42% of adults who had reported feeling unsafe after dark significantly changed their lifestyle to avoid going out to visit friends during this time. The statistics gathered were particularly unfavorable for women between the ages of 16 and 34, who expressed the greatest concern over their own safety while using public transport alone after dark. Mr. Mayor, despite 13 years of the Tory government's neglect, this council continues to work diligently with its partners, using limited resources to devise initiatives that deliver for our residents. The Feltham Safer Town Centre initiative, led by Labour councillors working collaboratively with the police and the Safer Communities team, is a great example of this. Mr. Mayor, this council recognises that engagement between residents and all stakeholders responsible for community safety is vital for community cohesion. The government's research published in March 2023 suggests low levels of confidence regarding how community safety issues are being dealt with across the country. The majority of residents hold the view that only police or local council are responsible for dealing with community safety and are unaware of the role other agencies play towards this. It is therefore essential that this council continues to use its channels, such as area forums and the community and family hubs, to work with its partners to engage with residents. Mr. Mayor, I conclude on this note that the fear of crime can be just as damaging to people as crime itself. I therefore urge Council to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Asim. We now come to the proposed amendment which members...
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Yes, Councillor Mayor.
Yeah, I'd like to echo some of the things that Councillor Croft has said.
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Not at the moment, yeah.
All right, just let me know.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Mr. Mayor.
Please, yeah. Okay. We now come to the proposed amendment, which members can find it in the supplementary agenda. I invite Councillor Jack Emersley to introduce it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought the council was going to propose my amendment there. He's very welcome to. But I'd just like to say, first of all, congratulations to Councillor Croft on what I think is her first motion proposed since joining the council. So well done on bringing this important topic of tackling crime to this borough council. As she'll know, the issue of crime, and in particular antisocial behaviour and shoplifting, has been particularly acute in the areas of Chiswick that we both represent. And whilst Councillor Croft is absolutely right to say that we need to improve communication around how this council is responding to crime, we also need to be honest and say that we could take more action in order to address these issues. So as it currently stands, this motion is only really proposing improving communications, sending a few more tweets, maybe writing a few more letters. Councillor Shaheen isn't here, but if he was, I'm sure as a fellow PR professional, he would join me in welcoming this motion's increased focus on comms. But I believe more can and should be done. And that's what this amendment is all about. Taking this motion that step further and proposing real local action on tackling crime. The amendment proposes a number of actions, but as it's already 10 p.m, I wanted to specifically address the proposal to explore the creation of a new law enforcement team. In a nutshell, a dedicated law enforcement team would be a uniformed group of council officers who provide a visible deterrent against crime. A similar scheme has been in operation in Hammersmith since 2021, with the borough now employing 72 law enforcement officers to work alongside police officers. The Chiswick calendar revealed earlier this year the extent to which local shops in my ward have been suffering from shoplifting and antisocial behaviour. In the course of his important special report, the Chiswick calendar's Matt Smith also spoke to senior officers in Hammersmith and Fulham about the council's law enforcement team. It's clear that this scheme is working in Hammersmith, and it could for our borough too. We know that Hammersmith created their team by pooling resources from existing enforcement teams in different council departments, and we hope this council could look at a similar amalgamation into a borough-wide team. After all, when he first announced the law enforcement team, the leader of Hammersmith Council said, "When you meet the victims of crimes, this scheme is simply a no-brainer." Mr. Mayor, we have a brilliant Safer Neighbourhoods police team in Chiswick, and I know there are similar brilliant police teams elsewhere in this borough. But as Councillor Croft rightly said, we as a council need to do more to support them. So this shouldn't be a controversial amendment. Councillor Croft, that laughter suggests otherwise, but we'll see. Councillor Croft said in August that she supports in principle the creation of a law enforcement team. And Councillor Rajawat confirms to Chiswick calendar he is open to discussion about a borough-wide enforcement team. So let's seize the initiative, let's pass this amendment cross-party, and let's work together to take real action on crime in our borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jack Emsley. May I now invite Councillor Gabriella Giles to second the proposed amendment and speak if she wishes to do so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I will speak right now, if that's all right. So one of the reasons our proposed amendment this evening is because, unfortunately, the original motion didn't make any reference to the localised impact of the Police and Crime Commissioner of London, otherwise known as the Mayor of London, and how funding to the Met is made London-wide. If we look at the allocation of central government police grants to the Met over the last 3 years, this has steadily increased. In 2021 to 2022, this was £1,164,185. In 2022 to 23, £1,068,666,629. And most recently in 23-24, £1,072,345,530. Looking closer to home, in March 2021, we agreed the Hounslow Safer Community Strategy, which, while stating we lived in a safe borough, we still had a commitment to ensure that all our residents feel safe. The strategy outlined 3 priorities, stating that residents are less affected by serious crimes, young people and adults exposed to and exploited to commit crimes receive help, and residents working together to keep Hounslow safe. While this is interesting to see what is interesting to see is how this differed from the Community Safety Strategy of 2017 to 2020, which focused on the 5 priority areas of young people affected by crime, tackling violence against women and girls, and I believe most of us are wearing ribbons tonight, hate crime, extremism, and protecting vulnerable people, safer neighbourhoods and town centres, and changing offending behaviour. I don't believe that these priorities are of any less importance, and I look forward to seeing the KPI reporting on the current Safer Community Strategy, especially as the report alluded to ambitions against which we will check we're on track. Perhaps if there was a mid-project report with these aims and targets reported easily found on the Council's website, it would be an easy win for the Council to ensure that our work to commit to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour is better communicated to all residents. To go back to the current Safer Community Strategy, Year 3 progress aimed to deliver a new preventative approach to address crime is embedded across all agencies and partnerships. More residents and communities are actively involved in keeping Hounslow safe, and simplified structures and processes in place to help residents understand how to access community safety related services. So while the ambitions from the strategy launched in 2021 were commendable, I have to ask where the year 2 and year 3 delivery plans promised in the strategy are, and if they were being delivered and implemented on, we wouldn't have a need for the original motion, nor indeed our own, as it would be clear what the council strategies achieved and were achieving. As Councillor Emsley alluded, the original motion talks about better communication. However, it doesn't make any reference to what residents can currently do to report crimes, or indeed use tools such as online watchlink, otherwise known as OWL, or Street Safe to identify areas where you may feel unsafe, to feel better engaged with the police, nor were these referenced in the Safer Communities strategy. We know that the police in London are under-resourced despite a central government-backed and funded recruitment drive supporting the Met Police, which the Mayor of London has failed to execute successfully. In the same vein, I would like to use this opportunity to share with you that a team from the police recruitment team will be present at the marketplace ahead of the Chiswick Area Forum next week. To return to the amendment, we've asked for 3 deliverables, and please forgive me while I paraphrase. To ask the Leader of the Council to employ a law enforcement team to tackle antisocial behaviour and deter crime, to strengthen its antisocial behaviour team and policies to respond effectively and faster to victims and complaints about antisocial behaviour, and to review the role of and availability of the Council's internal police team. To each of these points, I'm sure that each of us could provide insight as a result of our casework and work in our wards in relation to antisocial behaviour and the efforts of our local safer neighbourhood policing teams, and therefore help to shape a plan that can be delivered against, at least ahead of the new strategy that we expect in 2024. As such, I support the amended motion and ask you to support it as well.
A point of order,
Councillor Giles.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, please.
Yep.
Yes. This amendment is verging on vexatious, and it is certainly factually incorrect. What it demonstrates is the denial.
Tell us what is the point of order?
Demonstrates is the denial that the Tories are in about the damage they have caused to the criminal justice system. And on that point,
please.
On that point, I move that we go straight to a vote because this amendment should not be given any more oxygen.
So motion be put, yeah?
Mr. Mayor, we'd ask that that's a recorded vote, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, of course.
So to vote on that.
So vote on that motion is recorded vote, yeah?
No, so vote. Right, let me
No.
tell you procedurally what happens now. So the vote, as Councillor Strotto has asked for the vote to be put. So we vote on that first.
Yeah. Second it. Okay.
And so.
Okay, that's fine. Is this you vote for the secret vote?
No.
On the amendments, not on this one is the open vote. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. So vote, can we put this vote?
Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind repeating that, could you second that motion to be put? Councillor Rajawat, is that what you're doing?
Mr. Mayor, I'm formally seconding that the vote be put. Yeah.
Okay. Can we go for a vote now? Yeah. Can we vote on that? Please. Agreed. Okay. So some substantive motion. We are voting on that. Yeah.
Could we have a recorded vote on that, please, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So we need to process that.
Yeah. You've asked for the motion, so I have to do that. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. A request for a recorded vote has been made, so I will ask each member in turn.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, are we voting on their amendment first?
No, the motion has been put, Councillor.
The whole.
The motion has been put.
All right, mate.
Yeah. So the whole thing, yeah. So a recorded no, on the amendment, you're asking for that to happen.
That's what I said. I once chaired these meetings.
then there was no need for the motion to be put because the motion is the substantive motion. So the substantive motion stands still. So there was no need for that. So what you needed to do was to say that we voted for the substantive, the amendment. Councillor Croft will now be invited to ask whether in fact she wishes to accept the amendment or not. And if she refuses to do so, then that can be put to the vote.
Okay. So, okay.
So invite Councillor Croft.
Okay, that's fine. May I ask Councillor Croft if she agrees with the proposal to amend the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I don't agree with the motion to amend. I'm happy to give reasons for that if you would like, or if people would like to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
So it's a proposed amendment we're debating now. Councillor Stroud-Turp, do you want to move?
I will now move that the question be put on the amendment.
Okay.
And I will formally second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So can we vote on that now, please?
And can we have a recorded vote on that, please?
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chief Executive, Mr. Mayor. Don't you need 8 members to agree to a recorded vote?
Did 8. Do you want?
It's 8 members, you know.
Would you like to show 8 hands?
Please come to the business.
Remembering
Please come to
that
the business.
the council must finish at 11 by constitution, or all of those decisions will fail.
Yeah. Please come to the business.
So I'm going to record the votes now, if I may, members. So I'm going to call out each individual member in turn, and if you could call out whether you're for the amendment, against the amendment, or wish to abstain. Okay. Councillor Akhtar Hamid.
Against.
Councillor Mohammed Sakil Akram.
Against.
Councillor Madia Hassim.
Against.
Councillor Arlene Hatwell here. Councillor Lily Bath. Councillor Rashid Bhatti.
Against.
Councillor Dan Bowring.
Against.
Councillor Tom Bruce. Councillor Ghazala Butt.
Against.
Councillor Samia Chowdhury. Councillor Unsa Chowdhury.
Against.
Councillor Badna Chopra.
Against.
Councillor Amy Croft.
Against.
Councillor Sukhbir Dalwal.
Against.
Councillor Jack Emsley.
For.
And Councillor Adesh Farmahan.
Against.
Councillor Richard Foote.
Against.
Councillor Gabriella Giles.
For.
Councillor Ajma Garwal.
Against.
Councillor Pritam Garwal.
Against.
Councillor Shifra Garwal. Councillor Vikram Garwal. Councillor Riaz Gul.
Against.
Councillor Bishnu Gurung. Councillor Alan Joseph.
For.
Councillor Noor Kalim. Councillor Farah Cameron. Councillor Afsal Kiani.
Against.
Councillor Gurmal Lal. Councillor Guy Lambert. Councillor Tony Luki.
Against.
Councillor Karamat Malik. Not here. Councillor Amrit Man. Councillor Jeremy McGregor. Councillor Juna Mir. Councillor Hina Mir. Councillor Alan Mitchell. Councillor Ron Mishiso.
For.
Councillor Samina Nagra.
Against.
Councillor Lara Parazotto.
Against.
Councillor Shantanu Rajwat. Councillor Saya Raza.
Against.
Councillor Farhan Mirahan. Councillor Danish Saeed. Councillor Balraj Sarai. Councillor Marina Sharma.
Against.
Councillor Jagdish Sharma. Councillor Emma Sidhu.
Against.
Councillor Ragwinder Sidhu. Councillor Aftar Siddiqui.
Against.
Councillor Karen Smith.
Against.
Councillor John Stroud-Turp.
Against.
Councillor Kuldeep Tak.
For.
Councillor Peter Thomason. Councillor John Todd. Councillor John Todd.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Amir. And Councillor Rhys Williams.
Against.
Okay, thank you very much. That is meant, the motion has not been agreed.
Okay, the motion is not been agreed. Okay.
Amendment to the
Amen-
motion.
The amendment to the motion is not been agreed, yeah? Okay,
So
now,
it's a debate on the substantive.
yeah, may
motion.
it's the substantive already?
On
You
the
got
sub-
the original item, isn't it?
It's a substantive motion. So
So
we
we'll-
go down to the sort of substantive motion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Omer, you know.
I'd like to add in a few pennies and like to echo some of the crucial points Councillor Croft has already touched on.
Can I,
If that's okay.
you know, Councillor Omer, can we can,
Is that okay?
you know,
It's only about 7 paragraphs. I'll try to cut it
we need
short.
to go home and we need to finish this business today,
2
Mr. Omer,
paragraphs.
you know. No, I don't think so. No.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, thank you. Thank you, Omer. May I invite members to debate the original motion now.
Councillor Omer, I think, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone wants to speak.
Okay, no. Okay, just a minute. Councillor McGregor first, you know.
I'd like to thank Councillor Medea Azim for giving me an entry into this particular set of cards and trump her presentation. She mentioned the fact that we should make more use of area forums in our approach to policing and in approach to the community as a means of distributing information. In 2008, 15 years ago, every area forum had 8 main meetings every year, plus 4 meetings for monitoring. And in the monitoring meetings, the police came, and they came every quarter with a 90-day report for each ward in each of the area forums. Look at the number of times area forums have been held recently, and you see a huge loss of communication. The issue here before us is about policing. Policing is partly to do with good intelligence and partly to do with communication with local people who are able to respond to police requests, such as ourselves as councillors. The issues here are not just about budget, although budget is preeminent in most people's minds. It's also about organizational capacity. And the police make it quite clear they don't want their operational standards to be compromised by politicians such as ourselves. That creates a problem in terms of actually controlling what they actually do. In history, councils like ourselves used to have an oversight of police through things called watch committees. This is historic. They were removed on the grounds of inefficiency in the 1960s. That cut a link between ourselves and local policing forever. In a similar way, we used to have pretty well every senior councillor in this august body or its predecessors acting as an alderman with an aldermanic bench as magistrates. We've cut that link as well. So progress is not necessarily progress, and the motion, which is meant to be progressive, probably isn't, because we've forgotten how to do the knitting. Mr. Mayor, I'm definitely against this motion.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Now, Councillor Omer. Finally.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One more time. Let's try one more time. So firstly, I'd like to echo Councillor Croft's. She made a few critical points. There's absolutely no doubt that there's been years of severe government cuts to policing and the service overall. And there's been, my comrade, Councillor Medea Azim said, there's been hundreds of millions deducted over the last 13 years or since 2010. And this has a significant impact on the ability to minimize crime and or even detect the perpetrators. Now, we have we now have fewer police in London than there has been any time since 2003. So despite a significant increase in the overall population of approximately about 3 million additional people, we've actually had inversely proportional decline in the police numbering. So it's not that difficult to fill the gap, but the government needs to wake up to the reality and see that there's a clear link between the number of police officers and the rate of crime. Furthermore, the presence of police officers on our streets helps reassure our residents, and it helps them reduce the fear of crime. Various Tory leaders over the years have used crime as a key plank of their leadership, but in parallel, continue to reduce police funds. And this just makes you wonder whether anything the Tories ever say can be trusted. To quote one of the many great things the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has said, the Prime Minister and his government never had the intention of keeping his promise and is betraying the nation. With more than 70% of the police funding provided by the government, unfortunately, the current measures in place cannot undo the damage as a result of the years of funding cuts. Therefore, I'll totally endorse my comrades' motion and I urge you to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. Councillor Mashishu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief because I know quite a few people want to speak on this motion. It says, I agree with a lot of my colleagues across the table, that crime is out of control in London. But let's remember, as Councillor Emsley mentioned, and Councillor Giles, that Sadiq Khan is the Police and Crimes Commissioner for London. But rather than blame Sadiq Khan, I actually agree with Councillor Croft in some of the comments that she mentioned, but why doesn't she not accept the amendment, which says that the borough, the community, and the police should all work in tandem in tackling crime? It is not just the police's problem, it is our problem. And therefore, the government had its part to play in this as well. So I take the previous councillor's comments about the cuts in services. I completely agree with that. There had been cuts in services because we had no money left when we took government. And it's been 13 years of a Labour administration, don't you know? But the government realized that they needed to do something, and they gave each and every police and crimes commissioner across the country the funding to recruit police officers. In London, Sadiq Khan had a target of recruiting 4,557 officers. He had failed in that. And the records will show, if you look on the government websites, that the Met Police have had to give back £60 million back to the government because they have failed to recruit the adequate policing.
1 minute to go.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. In my last minute, I would like to address the councillors opposite. In that our police force need our support. They don't need to be ridiculed. But in order for us to recruit our police officers, we need a mayor that backs the police. And I hope that in May 2024, we back Susan Hall.
Councillor Mashishu, can ask Councillor Ajmer Grewal to speak. Councillor Ajmer Grewal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Croft, for bringing this motion. I must say, whilst the government continues to make public service cuts, and I will say cuts, Councillor McGregor, because they are cuts, which are negatively impacting on how we serve our residents. These cuts are also affecting policing at a local level. And that's why there's crime, not just in Chiswick, but all over the borough. So whilst there is a commitment to recruit more officers in London, the ability to attract new recruits remains an issue. Despite this, I am proud to say the council continues to prioritise the work to keep Hounslow a low crime borough. Keeping Hounslow a safe place is a priority for this council, and our Safer Community Strategy sets out our approach to working in partnership to achieve this. Year on year, we are investing in services which work directly with our residents to keep them safe. The council has funded its own police team for several years to supplement BCU police resources, as well as funding resources in its own community safety and enforcement teams. And for our council estates, we have a team of dedicated police officers. More recently, to align with our Safer Community Strategy, we have developed an area-based approach to tasking resources and dealing with often complex situations involving council services, police, other agencies, voluntary sector, and communities themselves. A key part of this approach includes focusing on prevention. We want to stop crimes before they happen and stop them from escalating. We held our first Serious Violence Summit, which was co-designed and co-delivered by young people, as Councillor Barth said. I'm pleased to say it was a huge success. Prior to this, a roundtable to discuss how we prevent gangs and groups offending in the borough took place with experts in the field and those who lived with the experience. The outcome of the roundtable shaped our prevention work in this area. We continue to invest in working directly with children and young people who are at risk of exploitation and being groomed into running drug lines. Additionally, our work around keeping those safe affected by domestic abuse, including children, has been recognized as best practice in the government's Domestic Abuse Act statutory guidance. I'm pleased to share the next phase of our Safer Communities Improvement Programme will enhance our existing area-based approach with additional resources aimed at the gaps left by the reduced police LBH funded team, and that'll happen within 4 to 6 weeks, as well as arriving at a total operating model for the whole of the community safety by April 24. This will further set out to be refreshed in the Safer Community Strategy 2024 to 2027. Our Transforming Customer Experience program will also strengthen how our residents access our wide range of community safety services. By working together, we can keep Hounslow safe for everyone. I'm therefore supporting Councillor Croft's motion to better communicate the work being done and methods of engaging with services. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bergerwal.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, John.
On that excellent note, I think it's probably appropriate to move to the vote on this. I move the question now be put.
Thank you. Okay.
Can we have a recorded vote on that motion,
Oh,
please?
God. Oh, God. Okay.
So I need a vote on that first of all.
Yeah.
Please, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. So can we have a vote to vote? You know.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. So the next is recorded vote. Yeah.
On the substantive item. Just junior business. Thank you, members. I'm going to be calling out each of the members' name in turn, and this is for the substantive motion before you this evening. And could you vote whether you're for the motion, against it, or wish to abstain? So, Councillor Aksar Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Shakil Akram.
For.
Councillor Medea Azim.
For.
Councillor Arlene Hatwell here. Councillor Lily Barth. Councillor Rashid Bhatti. For. Councillor Dan Bowring. For. Councillor Tom Bruce.
For.
Councillor Ghazala Bhatt.
For.
Councillor Samia Chowdhury. Councillor Unsa Chowdhury.
For.
Councillor Badma Chopra.
For.
Councillor Amy Croft.
For.
Councillor Sukhbir Dalwal.
For.
Councillor Jack Emsley.
Against.
Councillor Adish Farmahan.
For.
Councillor Richard Foote.
For.
Councillor Gabriella Giles.
Against.
Councillor Ajmal Garwal.
For.
Councillor Pritam Garwal. For. Councillor Shifra Garwal. Councillor Vikram Garwal. Councillor Riaz Gul. Councillor Bishnu Gurung. Councillor Alan Joseph.
Against.
Councillor Anu Kalim. Pardon me. Councillor Farah Karam. pardon me, Councillor Afzal-Kiani,
4,
Councillor Gurmalal, Councillor Guy Lambert, Councillor Tony Luki,
4,
Councillor Amrit Mann, Councillor Gerald McGregor, 4,
Yes.
4, Councillor Junu Mia, Councillor Nina Mir, Councillor Anna Mitchell, Councillor Ron Mashiso,
Against.
Councillor Samina Nagra,
4.
Councillor Lara Parazotto,
4.
Councillor Shantanu Rajawat, Councillor Saya Raza, 4, Councillor Farhan Rahman, Councillor Danish Saeed, Councillor Councillor Bara Sarai, Councillor Marina Sharma,
4.
Councillor Jagdish Sharma, Councillor Emma Sidhu,
4.
Councillor Ragwinder Sidhu, Councillor Councillor Aftab
Don't
Siddiqui.
matter, doesn't matter at all. Yes. It's that hour of the night.
Councillor, as you can see, a couple more of these and they'll be hospitalised. Councillor Karen Smith,
4.
Councillor John Stroud Turp, Councillor Kuldeep Tak,
Abstain.
Councillor Peter Thompson, Councillor John Todd,
Against.
and Councillor Mohammed Hemir. Councillor Rhys Williams.
4.
Mr. Mayor, I've changed my mind. I'd like to vote against.
I don't know what the rules are with that.
Okay, Councillor McGregor, I think it's already recorded, so.
You can change it. We haven't finished the debate. You can change it. I'm against.
Well, we hadn't finished, Councillor McGregor, so yeah, we can change your votes. Doesn't make any difference.
Okay, all right, okay.
Motion carried, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, the result is motion carried. So next item, agenda item 20, proposed by Councillor Dan Boring and seconded by Councillor Unsa Chaudhary. We therefore now move on to the last motion, which can be found at agenda item 20. I now therefore invite Councillor Dan Boring to propose the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a rare privilege to have two of my motions being proposed at Borough Council. I would like to thank the Chief Whip for his wisdom and tactical foresight and the Conservatives for being inadvertent accomplices. That being said, hitting the brakes on our net zero goals is morally shameful, economically illiterate, financially burdensome to the people of this country, hurts business and deters investors. All standard criteria for a Tory policy. It was Augustine who uttered the humorous prayer, "Lord, make me pure, but not yet." It seems the Rishi Sunak version is, "We will be green, but not yet." This dangerous flirtation with the climate deniers, the climate skeptics, and the climate obfuscators in his own party is further proof of his shocking political impotence and inability to show strong leadership on the things that really matter. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to the coalition of major UK environmental charities representing 20 million supporters who say reneging our net zero targets are alarming and have no public mandate. Listen to 100 of Britain's largest businesses who warn the UK will be left behind if we do not step up to this, the economic opportunity of the 21st century. Listen to over 100 of the country's finest economists who say this delay will raise the cost of living, put Britain behind other countries in the race to build a green economy. And that is an example of the very kind of short-termism that has led to the UK's current economic malaise. Listen to the Climate Change Committee, the government's own independent statutory body, set up precisely to track our progress to net zero, who say the relaxation of targets mean they are now insufficient to meet our goals and lack transparency. Listen to former Prime Minister Theresa May, remember her? Who said in response to the latest changes that what we need to do now is press the accelerator on transition to a green economy, not try to draw back. I want to speak very directly into why this issue is so important. The climate crisis is so big, it can at times seem abstract or someone else's problem. We all know we need a green transition, but, and this is the important bit, it won't just happen automatically. It requires the continued, comprehensive and calculated cooperation of citizens, corporations, governments, NGOs, financial institutions and more across the planet on a scale never seen before in the history of humanity. We have a shrinkingly small window of opportunity to act. This is the time, this is the hour, and we must push forward, not shrink back. 82% of the country are concerned about the climate crisis. 22% trust Rishi Sunak to fix it. If he wants to make these reckless changes, breaking the manifesto pledges made by his party in 2019, I suggest he ask the voters for a mandate to do so and call a general election now.
Thank you, Councillor Bowring. I would like to invite Councillor Unsa Chaudhary to second the motion and speak to it if she wishes.
Go on, Chaudhary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second this very important motion. Earlier today, City Hall revealed that London has, through the work of who? The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who the opposition tried to blame earlier on the motion of crime, delivered a third of the UK's entire EV charging infrastructure. They've also announced a series of EV charging hubs to support the transition, including here in our local area of Hatton Cross, to support our businesses, taxi drivers, delivery drivers, and others to use and switch to electrical vehicles. In the private sector, we saw firsthand that the first transatlantic passenger flight powered by sustainable aviation fuel took off from Heathrow, one of our largest contributors to emissions in and around our borough. These are groundbreaking initiatives. This is progression. It's supporting our country to move forwards, to move towards a healthier outcome for everyone. Rishi Sunak's government, however, they're not progressing. In fact, they're backpedaling and negating on promises that the government made to improve our future, to improve outcomes for our children and generations to come. To quote the Prime Minister, for the last 30 years, politicians have resorted to short-term political decision-making, taking the easy way rather than fixing the underlying problems. Well, Mr. Prime Minister, in your effort to appease to the pool of right-wing MPs who probably are after your job, you're doing exactly the same. You're putting our futures at risk. It is no surprise that the world is heating up. The Earth's surface temperature has increased by 1.1 degrees Celsius since 1880, with over half of that increase happening in the late 1970s. It's expected by the 2030s, temperature will have increased to 1.5 degrees. This is going to have a huge impact on our world. Scientists argue by 2050, 20% of the planet could be deemed too hot, called barely livable hot zones, inevitably causing a major humanitarian and migratory crisis when our fellow humans look for cooler climates. This is the future Rishi Sunak's government is promising us, downplaying the effects of rising temperatures, shrinking Arctic and Antarctic ice, increasing the cost of living, increasing cost of basic necessities such as food. Action is needed now. 2050 is too late. Saying it's to support those on lower incomes, it's a false economy. If we don't reduce the effects of climate change, then the cost of living is going to go up for everyone. And it's unfortunately going to affect those who are the worst off at the moment. Perhaps the Prime Minister would be a little bit more believable if he didn't go on a private jet around the UK. And maybe if he used, I don't know, an electric train, that would have been quicker and better. How can we believe Rishi Sunak's rhetoric when we know there is an increasing inequality in the UK, caused largely by, and you've probably guessed it, 13 years of the Tory government?
Yes, mate.
In the 70s, we were amongst the most equal societies. Now we are only second to the United States in being the most unequal. Just let that sink in. Delaying and denying the effects of climate change will only exacerbate this. We have to act now. We have to act in the interests of our residents. Hounslow may only be a small part of the UK,
Minute to go.
but this council takes our duties very seriously. We only wish the government would do the same for our country. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Point of order. I don't think we can cap that, and we don't want to hear any more climate apologists. So I propose we move straight to the vote and the question be put.
Okay. Okay. Can we have a vote on that? Agreed. Agreed. Okay.
And could we have a named vote on the main question, please?
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. So can I ask Jael to do that? Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask, Chief Exec to conduct that, please?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is the same drill as before. So item 20, the substantive motion being presented to council, and would you please say whether you're for the motion, against the motion, wish to abstain, and I will call each member's name in turn. So Councillor Aksa Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Shakir Akram.
For.
Councillor Medea Hassim.
For.
Councillor Arlene Hackwell here. Councillor Lily Bath. Councillor Rashid Bhatti. For. Councillor Dan Bowring.
For.
Councillor Tom Bruce. No longer there. Councillor Ghazala Bhatt.
For.
Councillor Samia Chowdhury. Councillor Unsa Chowdhury.
For.
Councillor Badna Chopra.
For.
Councillor Amy Croft.
For.
Councillor Sukhbir Dalwal. Councillor Jack Emsley.
Against.
Councillor Adish Farmahan.
For.
Councillor Richard Foote.
For.
Councillor Gabriella Giles.
Against.
Councillor Rajat Gill. Oh, sorry, pardon me. Councillor Ajmal Garwal.
For.
Councillor Pritam Garwal. For. Councillor Shivra Garwal. Councillor Vikram Garwal. Councillor Riaz Gal. Councillor Bishnu Gurung. Councillor Alan Joseph.
Against.
Councillor Noor Kaleem. Pardon me. Councillor Farah Kamran. Councillor Afsal Kiani.
For.
Councillor Gurmal Galal. Councillor Guy Lambert. Councillor Tony Luki.
For.
Councillor Amrit Man. Councillor Gerald McGregor. Yeah. Councillor Jinumia. Councillor Inamia. Councillor Alan Mitchell. Councillor Ron Mashiso.
Against.
Councillor Samina Nagra.
For.
Councillor Lara Parizotto. Councillor Shantanu Rajwat. Councillor Saya Raza.
For.
Councillor Farhan Rehman. Councillor Denise Said. Councillor Bara Sarai. Councillor Marina Sharma.
For.
Councillor Jagdish Sharma. Councillor Emma Sidhu.
For.
Councillor Ragwinder Sidhu. Councillor After Siddiqui.
For.
Councillor Karen Smith.
For.
Councillor John Stroud Turp. Councillor John, oh, sorry, pardon me. Councillor Kuldeep Tak.
Against.
Councillor Peter Thompson. Councillor John Todd.
Against.
Councillor Mohammed Mayor. And Councillor Rhys Williams.
For.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chief Exec, because it's nearly Christmas and it's the time for giving and what have you, could we give Councillor McGregor the chance to possibly change his answer?
Councillor Garwal, I'm afraid I've finished.
Thank you.
The motion is carried.
So motion is carried. Okay. Agenda item 21, any other matter that the mayor consider urgent? There's none. Okay. Agenda item 20. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
can I,
Councillor
on
McGregor.
behalf of the council, thank you for dealing with this meeting this evening, and may I wish you a very happy Christmas and a wonderful New Year.
Same to you. Thank you. I'll come to that in a minute. Okay. The date of next meeting, please note, the date of next meeting is Tuesday, the 17th February 2024, and will commence at 7:30 p.m. in the council chamber. Thank you, all the members, for attending today's meeting. May I remind members to sign the attendance book if they have not already done so. May I remind members of the council photograph and festive mayoral reception immediately afterwards on Monday, 11 December, starting at 6 p.m. As this is the last council meeting of the year, I wish everyone a very happy Christmas break and a good New Year. So yes, Councillor Tuck, what you want to say?
Mr. Mayor, a slight clarification. The agenda says the next meeting Tuesday, 27th February, and you announced 17th February.
No, sir. No, I said 27th. No, I said 27th,
Yes. Okay.
All right, it's noted, yeah. Thank you, everyone, and the meeting is officially closed.